The world was watching, but no one could have predicted what was about to happen. It was a crisp morning in Hawthorne, California, and inside the sleek, glass-walled headquarters of SpaceX, the air was thick with anticipation. Engineers, journalists, and a few hand-picked guests from the tech world buzzed with excitement and nervous energy. On a massive screen at the front of the room, a countdown clock ticked away, its steady rhythm amplifying the tension in the room. Elon Musk stood backstage, his figure just visible in the shadows, waiting. He had always been a man of few words, but today, the words he would speak could change the future of humanity. It wasn't just another SpaceX launch or Tesla innovation. This was something much bigger. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The clock hit 0, and the lights in the room dimmed. The screen flickered to life, showing a live feed from Musk's office. He stood at his desk, looking calm, but there was an intensity in his eyes that made it clear this was not business as usual. "Good morning," he began, his voice steady but carrying a weight that commanded attention. "Today, I'm announcing something that will not only redefine the future of America but the future of the entire human race." There was a murmur in the room. Musk had said bold things before, but this sounded different. His words hung in the air like a challenge, daring anyone to doubt him. "We've reached a point," he continued, "where the world needs to take a giant leap forward, not just incrementally improve. It's time to disrupt not only industries but the very way we live, work, and explore the universe. I'm not talking about electric cars or rockets. I'm talking about a complete, radical rethinking of how we build a sustainable future. A future that will revive America's spirit of innovation and make the impossible possible." A ripple of disbelief swept through the room. Musk had always pushed boundaries, but this was something new. Something larger than the ambitious goals of Tesla's electric revolution or SpaceX's Mars ambitions. This was a bold claim that challenged the very fabric of what America had come to believe about itself. Musk wasn't just talking about technology. He was talking about societal transformation. He was suggesting that America had lost its edge, its pioneering spirit, and that it was his responsibility, not the government's, not any other corporations, to bring it back. For the last several decades, Musk continued, America has been sitting on the sidelines, watching as the world overtakes us in innovation. We've let other countries leap ahead, while we've stagnated, focused on the wrong things. It's time for us to take back the future. We're going to create a city, no, a new kind of civilization, one that combines sustainable energy, space exploration, and cutting-edge technology. And we're going to make it right here on Earth, before we venture out to Mars. The room was silent, save for the hum of the air conditioning. A few people exchanged skeptical glances, but most were riveted. Could this be possible? Could Musk's vision really come to life? "I know this sounds crazy," he said, acknowledging the disbelief in the room. "And I know I've made a habit of making bold claims. But this time, I believe we can do it. We have the talent, the technology, and the will to make it happen. And if we can do it, it will ignite a new wave of innovation across America, one that will take us into the next century." The camera zoomed in on Musk's face as he paused for effect. This is not about one company or one project. This is about an idea that will ignite the spirit of innovation in America once again. And if we succeed, we'll not only change America, we'll change the world. He didn't give away too much yet. He let the words hang in the air, leaving everyone in the room to wonder. What exactly was he proposing? The ambiguity was intentional. Musk didn't need to explain every detail at this moment. The shock value alone was enough to grab the world's attention. For a moment, it seemed like the world held its breath. Then, as if on cue, the screen behind Musk flickered again, and a new image appeared. A futuristic cityscape. Tall, sleek buildings powered by renewable energy sources, with autonomous vehicles gliding through streets lined with trees. The city wasn't just a utopian dream. It looked real. And as Musk began to explain the concept further, it became clear that this was no mere fantasy. It was a vision, a blueprint, for something that could actually exist. We're building a new kind of city. A city powered entirely by sustainable energy, connected by autonomous transportation, and designed for the future of human habitation, whether here on Earth or on Mars, Musk said. And we're going to build it in America. The journalists in the room exchanged stunned glances. This was bigger than any space mission, bigger than any electric car release. This was about reimagining society itself. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Musk added with a grin, his usual confidence evident, though his words felt like an invitation. An invitation for everyone to join him in this audacious journey. But the question lingered in the air, not just for the viewers but for those in the room. Could this really work? Could Musk's ambitious vision of a new city, a self-sustaining, technologically advanced utopia, revive America's faltering spirit of innovation? The world would soon find out. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? To understand the audacity of Elon Musk's latest vision, you first need to look back. Back to the beginning, when the boy who dreamed of space was growing up on the other side of the world. Born in Pretoria, South Africa, in 1971, Elon Musk was never one to follow the crowd. As a child, he was a quiet, introspective boy, often lost in books about science fiction and fantasy. At a young age, he developed a fascination with technology, teaching himself how to program computers before he even reached his teens. By the time he was 12, Musk had sold his first software, a video game called Blaster, for a whopping $500. He was a child prodigy, but his intellect wasn't the only thing that set him apart. It was his relentless curiosity and an unshakable belief that technology could solve humanity's greatest challenges. Musk's upbringing was far from ordinary. His parents, May Musk and Errol Musk, were both highly accomplished individuals, but their marriage was turbulent, marked by emotional distance and conflict. Musk's father, a Canadian electromechanical engineer, was cold and often emotionally distant, while his mother, a model and dietitian, was supportive but also overwhelmed by the demands of raising 3 children on her own. The divorce left a mark on Musk, fostering in him a sense of isolation and independence. These early struggles, combined with his natural brilliance, laid the foundation for his future ambitions. He left South Africa at 17, determined to pursue the American dream. Musk enrolled at Queen's University in Ontario, Canada, before transferring to the University of Pennsylvania in the United States. There, he earned degrees in both economics and physics, drawing on the unique combination of business sense and scientific rigor that would later define his career. Musk was no stranger to risk. Even then, his thinking was always a few steps ahead of his peers. In 1995, he dropped out of a PhD program at Stanford University after just 2 days, choosing instead to pursue opportunities in the rapidly evolving world of technology and the internet. It was a decision that would change the course of his life, and, eventually, the course of human history. Musk's first big venture, Zip2, was a software company that helped newspapers transition to the internet. The company was sold to Compaq for nearly $300 million, giving Musk his first taste of success. But it was the next step that would define his career. In 1999, Musk co-founded X.com, an online payment company that would eventually become PayPal after a merger. PayPal was revolutionary, an easy way to send money electronically, paving the way for the modern e-commerce revolution. In 2002, PayPal was sold to eBay for $1.5 billion, and Musk, then in his early 30s, became a multimillionaire. But Musk wasn't satisfied with just making money. In fact, wealth seemed to be a secondary concern for him. He was driven by something much more profound, a desire to change the world, to tackle the impossible, to solve humanity's biggest problems. So, while most young tech billionaires were retiring to private islands or launching luxury ventures, Musk set his sights on space. In 2002, he founded SpaceX with a singular goal: to make space travel more affordable and eventually colonize Mars. Critics scoffed. At the time, NASA and other established aerospace companies were entrenched in decades of bureaucracy and tradition. SpaceX, by contrast, was a scrappy, lean startup with a tiny budget and a radically different vision. The first few years were brutal. Rockets exploded. Funding dried up. Musk even had to borrow money to keep the company afloat, but Musk's belief never wavered. He had set his sights on Mars, and no setback could derail him. Then, in 2008, SpaceX achieved a breakthrough. The Falcon 1 rocket became the first privately developed liquid-fueled rocket to reach orbit. It was a moment that would change the course of space exploration. SpaceX had done what many thought was impossible. It had proven that private companies could compete with the biggest government agencies in the world. While SpaceX took off, Musk wasn't slowing down. In 2004, he had joined Tesla Motors, a company that was struggling to build an electric car that could rival traditional gasoline-powered vehicles. Musk poured his fortune into the company and became its CEO and product architect. Tesla, too, had its share of early struggles. Critics said electric cars were impractical and too expensive for the average consumer. Yet, under Musk's leadership, Tesla transformed from a niche electric car manufacturer into one of the world's most valuable companies. The Model S, introduced in 2012, redefined what an electric car could be. Tesla wasn't just making cars, it was creating a new paradigm for the entire auto industry. In the years that followed, Musk expanded his empire into other groundbreaking ventures. SolarCity, a solar energy company, aimed to revolutionize how we produce and consume energy. Neuralink, a company focused on developing brain-machine interfaces, promised to unlock new frontiers in neuroscience. The Boring Company, an infrastructure and tunnel construction company, sought to alleviate urban traffic congestion with subterranean transportation systems. Musk was a man on a mission, one that extended far beyond personal wealth or fame. His goal was nothing short of reshaping humanity's future. But even with all his success, Musk wasn't immune to criticism. Many saw him as a visionary, while others considered him reckless. Some admired his audacity, while others called him delusional. For all his accomplishments, Musk had yet to prove he could achieve the ultimate goal, to build a sustainable, innovative future for all of humanity. That's where the latest announcement came in, his bold vision to revive America's spirit of innovation. It was a call to arms for a nation that had lost its edge. America, once the world leader in technological advancement, now seemed content to follow. Musk was determined to change that. He knew that to pull America out of its technological stagnation, he would have to do something even bigger than what he had already achieved. But what exactly was his next move? It was 2024, and America stood at a crossroads. For the first time in decades, the country seemed to be struggling to keep up with the rest of the world. Once a global leader in innovation, America had become a nation stuck in its own comfort zone, clinging to old industries and outdated ways of thinking. The very spirit of entrepreneurship that had defined the country for centuries seemed to have dulled. Young people were no longer dreaming about changing the world. They were wondering if they could just make it through the next few years without drowning in student debt or a volatile job market. The economic landscape was disheartening. Traditional industries like manufacturing, coal, and oil were on the decline. While tech giants like Apple and Google still held power, many of the groundbreaking innovations that had defined the late 20th century were no longer coming from the US. Other countries, particularly China, had surged ahead with high-speed rail networks, artificial intelligence, and clean energy technologies. Meanwhile, America found itself bogged down in political gridlock, with little to no progress on the big challenges of the day: climate change, healthcare, education, or infrastructure. It wasn't just the economy that was in trouble, it was the national psyche. In cities and towns across the country, people had begun to question the American dream itself. Was it still possible for the average person to succeed? Could America still be the land of opportunity, or was it a relic of a bygone era? Innovation, the engine that had once powered the country's rise, seemed to have stalled. For many, it felt as though America had forgotten how to dream. How could the country, which had once led the world in everything from space exploration to cutting-edge technologies, find its way back to that position of global leadership? It was against this backdrop of uncertainty that Elon Musk's words resonated so powerfully. His bold proposal for a new city, one that would redefine the very notion of innovation, felt like a lifeline, a beacon of hope in an era of stagnation. Musk had always been a controversial figure, but he had earned a reputation for delivering on his audacious promises. SpaceX had made private space travel possible, Tesla had disrupted the automotive industry, and his other ventures, like Neuralink and the Boring Company, were pushing the boundaries of what technology could achieve. But this new plan was different. This wasn't just about one company or one product. This was Musk's vision for the future of America and perhaps the world. He was suggesting that America needed to radically reinvent itself, not just catch up to the rest of the world, but lead once again. And yet, not everyone was convinced. The announcement had sparked a fierce debate across the country. While tech enthusiasts, engineers, and young entrepreneurs rallied behind Musk's idea, others remained deeply skeptical. Many believed that the problems America faced were too vast, too ingrained, for any one person or one company to fix. They questioned whether Musk's vision was just another pipe dream, a distraction from the real work that needed to be done to address the country's systemic issues. Could a single city, no matter how innovative, really reverse America's decline? Or was this just another flashy idea from a billionaire who thought he could save the world? In Washington, political leaders were torn. Some saw Musk's vision as a long overdue call to action. Others dismissed it as an impractical fantasy. The media had a field day, with pundits on both sides of the political spectrum weighing in. Some decried Musk's utopian fantasies as dangerously naive, while others hailed him as the only person willing to step up and make bold moves. Musk's critics accused him of trying to create a new Silicon Valley in the middle of a decaying economy and of perpetuating a myth that technological innovation could fix all of society's ills. But no one could deny the undeniable truth. Musk had captured the national imagination. The question was no longer whether his vision would succeed or fail. The question was how the country would respond. Would America be ready to embrace the future Musk was offering? Or would it continue to cling to the familiar, the old ways, and the comfort of stagnation? As debates raged across the media, something curious began to happen. People started talking. It didn't matter whether they were in Silicon Valley or a small town in the Rust Belt. Musk's vision had tapped into something deep inside the American consciousness, a desire for change, for a new direction. Even the cynics, who dismissed his project as a pipe dream, couldn't help but wonder. What if he's right? What if this is the spark we need to ignite a new era of innovation in this country? Elon Musk had always been an outsider in the world of business, someone who refused to play by the conventional rules. But now, more than ever, he seemed to be tapping into something larger than himself, the collective desire for a better future. And while no one could predict the outcome of his latest venture, one thing was certain. Musk had reignited the conversation about what America could be. The nation was at a crossroads. Would it continue to languish in its own apathy, or would it rise to the challenge that Musk had thrown down? Would this bold, audacious vision be the spark that reignited the country's pioneering spirit? As the weeks passed, the world watched, and the tension mounted. The stakes had never been higher. The tension in the air was palpable. America was on the verge of a historic transformation, but for the revolution to begin, Musk needed more than just support. He needed action. And for action to happen, he would have to convince not just tech enthusiasts and investors, but the very fabric of American society, policymakers, business leaders, and everyday citizens. In the weeks that followed his announcement, Elon Musk did something unexpected. He began a nationwide tour. This was not a flashy, media-driven spectacle, nor was it a one-man roadshow. Musk's goal was clear. He needed to get to the heart of America and show people that his vision was not some far-off fantasy, but a tangible reality. He wanted to create a groundswell of support for a new, bold future. The tour started in California, the heart of Silicon Valley, where Musk was already a legend. His name was synonymous with innovation and disruption. But even here, in the land of startups and billion-dollar valuations, the skepticism was thick. There were many who questioned whether a new city, designed from scratch, could really bring about the kind of revolution Musk promised. Musk's first stop was a tech conference in San Francisco. It was packed with entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, engineers, and media moguls. The crowd buzzed with anticipation as Musk took the stage. With his signature understated style, he spoke plainly, but his words carried weight. We're living in a time when the future is being shaped by old thinking, Musk began, his voice calm yet filled with conviction. We've become so focused on the immediate problems of today that we've forgotten to ask the bigger questions. What if we could build a city, a living, breathing example of what a sustainable, innovative future looks like? What if we didn't just react to problems, but took the initiative to create a new model of society, one that could lead the world into the future? The room was silent. People leaned in, trying to digest what he was saying. Some were clearly excited, others were still unconvinced. But there was no denying that Musk had a way of making the impossible seem just within reach. He didn't stop at just ideas. Musk detailed a roadmap for how this new city could work. It would be powered by renewable energy, utilize the most advanced AI and automation systems, and feature a network of underground tunnels designed to solve traffic congestion through high-speed transportation. It would be a model of sustainability where electric cars, solar energy, and green technologies would be integrated into every aspect of daily life. Musk's plan wasn't just about building a city. It was about rebuilding the entire foundation of how society functioned. "I know this seems like a lofty dream," he admitted, "but if we don't start somewhere, we'll never get there. And we can't afford to keep waiting for someone else to take the lead. The future doesn't wait for us to be ready." His words echoed in the hearts of many in the audience, particularly those who had grown disillusioned with the status quo. But for others, Musk's vision still felt like a pipe dream. After the presentation, a reporter from a major newspaper asked, "Elon, this is a massive undertaking. How do you plan to fund something like this? Who's going to back you?" Musk smiled, though it was a small, almost reluctant grin. "That's the beauty of it. I don't need the government to do this. I don't need a giant corporation. I need the right people, engineers, visionaries, builders, and yes, investors who are ready to bet on the future. I'll put my money where my mouth is. I'm already investing in the research and development that will make this possible." The room buzzed with conversation, but there was no denying that Musk's confidence had stirred something in the crowd. Still, the biggest question remained. Where would this city be? The answer came sooner than expected. Musk's next stop was in the heart of Texas. Texas was a different beast entirely. Known for its conservative values, its oil-driven economy, and its skepticism toward outside influences, the state had long been resistant to the progressive agenda that often came out of California. Yet, Musk knew that the energy industry, long the backbone of the state, was also ripe for disruption. His first visit was to Austin, a city known for its growing tech scene and progressive culture. He spoke to a room full of local business leaders and city officials, outlining his vision for the new city. But this time, he didn't just talk about the future. He talked about the present. He explained how Texas could become the focal point of a new economic era, one based on sustainable energy, technological advancement, and space exploration. He promised that this new city wouldn't just bring jobs. It would attract global talent, stimulate innovation, and establish Texas as the world leader in clean energy and tech. "There's an old saying," Musk said to the crowd. "Texas was built on oil, but it doesn't have to stay that way. Imagine a Texas where we don't just drill for fossil fuels. We harness the power of the sun, the wind, and the stars. This city will not just be a place for the elite. It will be a place for every Texan who believes that tomorrow can be better than today." The audience was skeptical, but there was no mistaking the spark of intrigue in their eyes. Musk's track record, his success with Tesla, SpaceX, and Solar City, spoke volumes, and even the most jaded critics were beginning to consider the possibilities. After the presentation, a local tech entrepreneur raised her hand. "You talk about a future that is powered by sustainable energy, but Texas is an oil state. How do you plan to shift an entire industry toward clean energy? And how do we handle the costs?" Musk paused for a moment, considering the question. "It's not going to be easy, but the cost of inaction is far greater. We have to invest in renewable technologies now if we're going to avoid the worst effects of climate change. Texas has the potential to be a leader in solar and wind energy, and this new city will be the testing ground for those technologies. We'll create jobs, stimulate the economy, and show the world that it's possible to make a profit while saving the planet." The conversation went late into the night. In the coming weeks, Musk's words began to reverberate throughout the state. While not everyone was convinced, the idea was starting to gain traction. In cities and towns across America, people were asking, could this be the new frontier? Could a new city, built with innovation, sustainability, and the spirit of exploration, be the answer to the country's stagnation? Musk's dream was no longer just his own. It had become the dream of millions of Americans who were hungry for change. As the weeks passed, Elon Musk's bold vision for a new city began to take on a life of its own. What started as a controversial idea championed by a few forward-thinking individuals soon became a movement, one that was drawing attention not only from tech enthusiasts but also from politicians, economists, and citizens from all walks of life. The momentum had shifted. The once dismissed plan for a cutting-edge city of innovation had become a symbol of hope, a rallying cry for those who believed America could once again lead the world in technological advancement and sustainability. It wasn't just Musk who was driving the conversation anymore. The ripple effect was palpable. His idea had ignited a firestorm of discussion in cities across the country, and everyone seemed to have an opinion. In some places, it was the talk of the town, sparking debates on whether the new city could create jobs, stimulate the economy, and solve environmental problems. In others, it was viewed with deep skepticism, an example of Silicon Valley arrogance, a dream too big to become reality. But Musk's critics, though vocal, were losing ground to the growing chorus of support. For every critic who called Musk a pipe dreamer, there were dozens of entrepreneurs, engineers, and young visionaries who saw the potential for something truly transformative. Social media was ablaze with discussions about the city, with hashtags like #InnovationCity and #MuskRevolution trending daily. News outlets across the country were covering Musk's journey, some with glowing reports, others with sharp critiques, but all acknowledging the undeniable impact of his words. As the conversation spread, political figures on both sides of the aisle began to take notice. While Washington had long been mired in partisan bickering, Musk's proposal had sparked something different, a rare moment of bipartisan intrigue. On one side, progressive Democrats saw the city as a potential model for sustainable development, a way to tackle climate change while creating jobs in the green economy. On the other side, conservative Republicans, typically wary of government overreach, saw it as a chance to invigorate the American economy by embracing free market principles and technological innovation. Senator Alexandria Ramirez, a progressive Democrat from California, was one of the first to throw her weight behind Musk's vision. "This is what America needs," she declared at a press conference in Los Angeles. A bold vision that doesn't just address our environmental challenges but also positions the United States as the global leader in the industries of the future: electric vehicles, clean energy, artificial intelligence, and space exploration. If we want to reclaim our spot at the forefront of innovation, we need to think big, and Elon Musk is offering us just that. Senator John Kramer, a Republican from Texas, also saw the potential in Musk's proposal, though his support was tempered with caution. The idea of creating a new city focused on sustainability and technological progress is an exciting one, he said at a rally in Austin. But let's be clear. If this is going to work, it's going to require a partnership between the private sector and the government. We need to ensure that this doesn't become another boondoggle or a tech utopia for the elite. It must benefit all Americans. Even within the confines of Washington's usual gridlock, there was an undeniable shift. For the first time in years, both sides were in agreement on the need for a radical transformation, though they differed on how it should happen. Beyond the political arena, the ripple effect reached everyday Americans. In small towns, in the heartland of the country, people began to see Musk's vision as a lifeline. While urban areas like San Francisco and Austin had long been at the center of technological progress, rural America had often felt left behind. The promise of a new city, one built from scratch, with the potential to create thousands of new jobs, was exactly what many had been waiting for. In a town like Youngstown, Ohio, once a proud steel city now struggling with unemployment and economic decay, people were starting to talk about Musk's idea with cautious optimism. Local leaders and community organizers began reaching out to Musk's team, eager to understand how they could be a part of the new movement. The possibility of a thriving, innovative city on American soil, the kind that could bring cutting-edge technologies, job creation, and a clean energy future, was a dream many thought had long passed them by. In high schools and college campuses across the nation, Musk's name was whispered among students who were more focused on finding meaningful work than on the drudgery of the present. Young engineers and aspiring entrepreneurs were inspired by the idea of a place where they could contribute to building the future. Social media posts, blogs, and podcasts discussing Musk's vision surged, and crowds of students began to organize around the concept of a new, forward-thinking society. Among them was Lucas Daniels, a 21-year-old engineering student from Michigan. Lucas had grown up in a town where the steel mills once buzzed with life, but now sat silent, rusting, and abandoned. He was determined to make a difference, but had often felt disillusioned by the lack of opportunity in his hometown. That was, until he stumbled across an article about Musk's vision for a new city. Maybe this is the opportunity we've all been waiting for, Lucas thought, reading through the article. This could be the chance to start fresh, to build something that matters. Lucas wasn't alone. Hundreds of young people like him began forming grassroots groups to support Musk's idea. They started organizing hackathons, brainstorming sessions, and design competitions centered on the concept of an innovation city, one that could be a model for the future, not just for America, but for the entire world. The energy was palpable. Musk had tapped into a current that was already running deep within the country. Young people who were hungry for purpose, eager to innovate, and desperate for a chance to shape their own future. As the grassroots movement grew, so did the corporate interest. Musk's ventures had always attracted big players, whether it was Tesla's partnership with Panasonic for batteries or SpaceX's contracts with NASA. But now, his newest project, the idea of a self-sustaining, innovation-driven city, was attracting interest from some of the world's biggest companies. Apple, Google, and Amazon were among the first to publicly endorse the idea. Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, expressed his support in an open letter. "This new city represents the future of our planet," he wrote. "A place where technology, sustainability, and human ambition can come together to create something that will benefit all of humanity. We're excited to see where this vision leads." Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon and a longtime space enthusiast, shared his enthusiasm as well. Building a city that serves as a hub for space exploration, clean energy, and technology is a bold idea, but it's the kind of idea that America was built on, he said. If we want to lead the world into the future, we need to embrace the radical, the ambitious, and the new. Elon Musk's vision embodies that spirit. But it wasn't just tech giants that were getting involved. Venture capitalists began lining up, eager to invest in the future of this new city. Firms that had previously been cautious with their investments saw Musk's plan as an opportunity to back something truly game-changing, something that could define the next generation of technological advancement. As the momentum continued to build, Musk and his team faced an even greater challenge: how to turn this growing enthusiasm into something real. There were still major hurdles to overcome: political opposition, logistical obstacles, and, of course, the enormous financial cost of building a city from scratch. But the dream was no longer just Musk's. It had become the dream of millions of Americans who were hungry for change. Would the nation rise to the challenge? Would Musk's vision be realized, or would it remain just another idea too grand for the present? By mid-2024, the buzz surrounding Elon Musk's vision had reached a fever pitch. The idea of a new city, one that embodied the future of innovation, sustainability, and technology, was no longer just an abstract concept. The groundwork for turning this audacious dream into a reality had officially begun. Elon Musk knew that this would not be a simple endeavor. Building a city from scratch, especially one that aimed to set a new standard for how society could live and function, would require unprecedented coordination, a vast amount of resources, and an army of visionary thinkers. The challenges were immense, but Musk had never been one to shy away from the difficult path. After all, he had already revolutionized space travel, reshaped the automotive industry, and transformed the way the world thought about sustainable energy. Now, he was about to take on the most ambitious project of his career: to reinvent the very concept of a modern city. The first challenge was finding the right location. Musk and his team had considered several options across the country, weighing factors like access to renewable resources, proximity to existing tech hubs, and the potential to revitalize a region that had been struggling economically. While many of America's coastal cities were already home to tech giants and infrastructure, Musk was determined that the new city would be more than just another extension of Silicon Valley. Think of this city as a prototype, Not just for us, but for the entire world, Musk said during a press conference in early 2024. We have to get it right from the ground up. We can't afford to just retrofit an existing city. This will be a new model for how society operates. After weeks of deliberation, Musk's team settled on a location in the Texas desert, just outside of the city of Austin. The area was remote enough to allow for the freedom of innovation, but close enough to Texas' booming tech seemed to attract the talent necessary for the project. Additionally, the region was rich in sunlight, making it ideal for solar power, and Texas already had a significant wind energy presence, offering another potential source of renewable energy. Local officials in Austin, initially skeptical, began to see the opportunity. The area Musk had selected was largely underdeveloped, with plenty of space for large-scale construction. It was also in close proximity to some of the state's largest universities and research institutions, which could provide the intellectual capital Musk would need to make his dream a reality. Texas has always been a place of bold thinking, said Governor Lisa Armstrong in a statement. We're excited to see how Elon Musk's vision can help us lead the nation into the next era of innovation. With the location secured, Musk set his sights on building a team capable of turning his ambitious plans into a reality. This would be no ordinary group of engineers and architects. Musk knew that creating a truly groundbreaking city would require more than just technical expertise. It would need a diverse set of thinkers, all willing to challenge conventional wisdom and push the boundaries of what was possible. To lead the effort, Musk tapped into his existing network of innovators and disruptors. He brought in engineers from Tesla and SpaceX who had already demonstrated their ability to create cutting-edge technologies. He reached out to urban planners, environmental scientists, and even philosophers who could help design a society built on new values, where innovation and sustainability would be at the forefront of every decision. Among the first to sign on was Dr. Amelia Grant, a world-renowned urban planner who had spent years researching sustainable city designs. Dr. Grant had worked on numerous high-profile projects across the globe, but she saw in Musk's vision something that transcended anything she had ever been a part of. This is a chance to create something entirely new, Dr. Grant said in an interview after joining the project. Most cities are built with the past in mind, existing infrastructure, old systems, historical baggage. But with this project, we get to build a future city from the ground up. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Joining her was Dr. Theo Hayes, a renewable energy expert who had spent his career working on advanced solar and wind technologies. The technology is already here, Dr. Hayes said. What we need now is a place to implement it on a scale that has never been attempted before. This city will be the perfect testing ground for the clean energy solutions of tomorrow. Musk also enlisted the help of engineers from the Boring Company, whose expertise in tunneling and transportation systems would be critical to designing the city's transportation infrastructure. The city would feature a network of underground tunnels, designed to eliminate traffic congestion and connect residents with key areas of the city through high-speed, automated transport systems. With the team in place, the focus shifted to the construction phase. The goal was to build a city that wasn't just functional, but an embodiment of the future itself. A city where cutting-edge technology would seamlessly blend with a sustainable, human-centered environment. Musk envisioned everything, from the buildings to the roads to the energy grid, working in harmony to create an optimized living experience for its inhabitants. Musk's first challenge was securing the capital needed to fund such an ambitious project. While his ventures had always attracted investors, this city was on a whole new level. The estimated cost of building the city from scratch was astronomical, and while Musk had promised to invest a substantial amount of his own wealth, he knew that outside investment would be critical. Musk's pitch to investors was simple. This was the opportunity to invest in the future of humanity. Not just a new city, but a new way of life. A city that could serve as a global model for sustainability, technological advancement, and urban living. It wasn't long before venture capitalists, hedge funds, and even philanthropic organizations began to take notice. Musk's reputation and track record, along with the growing movement around the idea, were enough to convince several major investors to take the plunge. These included high-profile figures like Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and other tech billionaires, who saw the project not only as an investment but as a chance to leave a lasting legacy in the world. The first round of funding came in at over $10 billion, enough to kickstart the construction phase. But Musk knew that this was only the beginning. As the project scaled, more investment would be necessary, particularly to cover the costs of infrastructure and energy development. Think of this as the first chapter in a new book. Musk told his team during one of their early strategy sessions, "We're not just building a city, we're building the future." As construction began, the focus shifted to the city's design. The architectural vision was striking. Sleek, futuristic buildings would dot the skyline, constructed from sustainable materials and designed to be energy efficient. The city would feature residential, commercial, and industrial zones that were not only integrated with nature but also supported by cutting-edge technology. But it wasn't just the buildings that mattered, it was the infrastructure. Musk's vision for a completely reimagined transportation system would be central to the city's function. In addition to the underground tunnels, a fleet of electric vehicles would be available for residents, all part of an autonomous transportation network. The city would also feature vertical farms, green roofs, and public spaces that prioritized environmental sustainability and social interaction. Musk's team worked around the clock, designing systems that would integrate renewable energy sources, advanced waste management systems, and state-of-the-art communication networks. The city's grid would be fully decentralized, meaning that each building could generate and store its own energy, reducing the city's dependence on external power sources. Every decision was made with one goal in mind: to create a self-sustaining city that would lead the way for the rest of the world. Despite the progress, Musk and his team knew that the road ahead would be filled with obstacles. There would be challenges with construction, regulatory hurdles, and ongoing debates about the social and economic impact of such a project. But for Musk, these were not setbacks, they were opportunities. "We've already started something that will change the course of history," he said during a visit to the construction site. "No one ever said it would be easy, but I believe we're on the right path." And with that belief, the foundations of the new city, America's bold new vision for the future, were being built, one brick at a time. The first few months of construction were a whirlwind of activity. Diggers and cranes dotted the barren Texas desert as the foundations for what would become the most ambitious urban project in the world began to take shape. Musk City, which was quickly dubbed New Horizons, was on its way to becoming the prototype for a future built on the pillars of sustainability, cutting-edge technology, and social equity. But as work commenced on the ground, the real work began to unfold in the minds of those who would live and work in the city: innovators, entrepreneurs, and thinkers from all corners of America. New Horizons, Musk's vision of a city for the future, would not be a conventional place. It was designed to be a hub where the brightest minds from various fields could come together to solve humanity's greatest challenges. Here, technology would be integrated into every aspect of daily life. Transportation would be seamless and autonomous. The power grid would be decentralized and entirely green. Health, education, and even entertainment would be driven by the latest advancements in artificial intelligence and sustainable practices. But before the first residents could move in, there was a deeper, more fundamental question to answer. How would people actually live in this new society? What would daily life look like for those who chose to make New Horizons their home? And most importantly, how could a place like this foster the spirit of innovation that Musk hoped to nurture? One of the first decisions Musk made was to establish a living lab, a space dedicated to experimentation, learning, and creating. Located at the heart of New Horizons, this think tank would serve as the beating heart of the city, where cutting-edge ideas could be developed, tested, and refined in real time. The Living Lab wasn't just a research center. It was a symbol of the new kind of society Musk envisioned. The facility was designed to be a state-of-the-art hub for scientific research, technological development, and creative collaboration. It would house hundreds of experts from various fields: scientists, engineers, medical professionals, educators, and even artists, who would work together to develop practical solutions to the world's most pressing problems. "We want to create a place where the boundaries between different disciplines are blurred," Musk explained in an interview with the New York Times. "We can't solve climate change, energy problems, or poverty by staying in our silos. We need everyone, from engineers to philosophers, to come together and rethink the way we live. That's how we'll innovate." The Living Lab was also built with an open-door policy. Anyone from New Horizons could come in, share their ideas, and participate in the innovation process. Residents weren't just passive consumers of technology, they were active participants in creating the future. In the early stages, the lab was a hive of activity. Engineers worked on prototypes for the city's sustainable energy grid, while others developed self-sustaining farming systems that could feed the growing population. A team of educators began drafting plans for a new kind of education system, one that emphasized critical thinking, creativity, and hands-on learning, in place of rote memorization. And then there were the dreamers, the young, idealistic innovators who had moved to new horizons with nothing more than a notebook full of ideas and a burning passion to make the world a better place. Among them was Zoe Adams, a 24-year-old tech entrepreneur who had dropped out of college and moved to new horizons in hopes of turning her own idea for a carbon-neutral energy solution into a reality. Zoe had heard about Musk's new city while attending a tech conference in San Francisco. The idea of a city that prioritizes sustainability and technological innovation was something I could get behind, she said. It was the kind of place where someone like me could make a real impact. I knew I had to be a part of it. When Zoe arrived in New Horizons, she was struck by the scale of the project. The city was still in its early stages, with some of the foundational work completed, but much of it was still just desert land. Yet, the buzz of excitement was palpable. There was an energy in the air that felt different from anything she had ever experienced. People weren't just talking about the future, they were building it. Zoe quickly became part of the Living Lab, where she began working with a diverse group of engineers and scientists to refine her energy technology. It wasn't long before her carbon-neutral system was selected to be tested as part of the city's energy grid. Every day feels like a breakthrough, Zoe said, her eyes alight with excitement. It's like we're all writing the rulebook for the future. One of the first major breakthroughs to come out of New Horizons was the development of a fully autonomous transportation system. The city's vision was to eliminate traffic, reduce carbon emissions, and create a transportation system that could move people efficiently from one part of the city to another without the need for traditional vehicles. Tesla's self-driving technology had already made headlines in the automotive world, but in New Horizons, Musk wanted to take it to the next level. The city would feature a network of electric, driverless vehicles that could be summoned at the push of a button and travel seamlessly between various locations within the city. This would not only reduce traffic congestion, but also ensure that the city's carbon footprint remained minimal. A team of engineers at the Living Lab, in collaboration with Tesla's autonomous vehicle division, began working on the prototype for New Horizons' transportation system. Their goal was to create vehicles that were fully integrated with the city's infrastructure, vehicles that could communicate with smart traffic lights, avoid obstacles, and navigate the city without human intervention. The first prototype was unveiled in early 2025, a sleek, fully autonomous electric car that could transport passengers across the city at lightning speed. It was designed with a futuristic look, a blend of practicality and elegance, and was powered by Tesla's next-generation battery technology, which was more efficient and longer-lasting than anything on the market. Elon always talks about building the future, and this is a glimpse of that future, said Sarah Lynn, one of the lead engineers on the project. This is more than just a car. It's a reimagining of how people will move around in the cities of tomorrow. The prototype was tested extensively in the desert surrounding New Horizons before it was integrated into the city's transportation network. It wasn't long before the first self-driving vehicles were zipping around the city, with residents eagerly jumping into the vehicles to experience the future firsthand. Another key innovation emerging from the Living Lab was a reimagined education system. Musk was passionate about changing the way children and young adults were educated. In traditional schools, he saw a system that was outdated and poorly suited to preparing students for the rapidly changing world. In New Horizons, the education system would be experimental, decentralized, and entirely hands-on. Students would learn by doing, creating, and solving real-world problems alongside scientists, engineers, and other experts. At the core of this new educational philosophy was a belief that students should be empowered to pursue their passions and create real-world solutions from an early age. Instead of memorizing facts from textbooks, they would work in teams on projects that addressed current challenges. They would design and build new technologies, test sustainable practices, and explore creative solutions to problems like climate change, energy consumption, and space exploration. Zoe Adams, for example, was asked to mentor a group of high school students who were working on their own sustainable energy projects. "I remember being in their shoes not too long ago," Zoe said, "so it's exciting to help them realize that they can change the world right now. This isn't just about textbooks. This is about shaping the future." The hope was that the city's educational system would produce not just graduates but the next generation of innovators, young people who would have the tools, experience, and mindset to solve some of the world's biggest challenges. As New Horizons began to take shape, it became clear that this was more than just a city. It was a community of innovators. The city attracted people who were not afraid to think big, challenge conventions, and push the limits of what was possible. People from all walks of life, engineers, scientists, artists, educators, and dreamers, had come together to build something that was greater than the sum of its parts. In the early days, the residents of New Horizons often found themselves working long hours in the living lab, fueled by the energy of the city and the belief that they were part of something monumental. While the city itself was still under construction, the spirit of innovation was already alive and thriving. "I've always wanted to be part of something that mattered," said Lucas Daniels, a young engineer who had moved to New Horizons from Michigan. "And here, you don't just wait for change to happen. You get to make it happen." By the summer of 2025, New Horizons was no longer just an idea sketched out on paper or a distant dream. The city was beginning to take physical form in the middle of the Texas desert, its skeletal infrastructure rising from the ground like the bones of a futuristic metropolis. What had once been barren land, dotted only with scrub brush and cactus, now held the promise of something much greater. For the residents of New Horizons, the excitement was palpable. Every day, as the sun rose over the horizon, there were new updates, new innovations, and new challenges to face. The city was evolving at a pace that felt almost impossible. But in the midst of it all, there was an overwhelming sense that something special was happening, that this was a place where people from all walks of life could come together and shape the future of society. The first buildings began to appear in the center of the city, casting long shadows over the dusty earth. These were not the traditional skyscrapers one might expect in a modern city. Instead, they were designed to reflect the principles of sustainability and energy efficiency that were central to the city's mission. The architecture was sleek, with curved glass facades and green roofs that helped regulate temperature and reduce the need for air conditioning. These buildings, the first wave of construction in New Horizons, were designed to be self-sustaining. Solar panels lined the roofs, and advanced rainwater collection systems fed into reservoirs that supplied the buildings with water. Inside, each unit was equipped with energy-efficient appliances and smart technology that allowed residents to monitor and control their energy usage. Musk, ever the perfectionist, visited the construction site frequently, often showing up unannounced to inspect the progress. "We're not just building a city," he said during one of his visits. "We're building a statement, a place where the future is realized, right in front of our eyes." Despite the ambitious goals and tight timelines, the construction teams were making impressive progress. One of the most exciting aspects of New Horizons was the integration of space-age technology into everyday life. The city would feature a transportation system like no other, a network of self-driving electric vehicles, high-speed maglev trains, and even drone delivery systems, all working in harmony. In early 2026, the first wave of residents moved into New Horizons. They were a diverse group: entrepreneurs, scientists, engineers, teachers, and artists, all brought together by their shared passion for innovation and sustainability. These early pioneers were among the first to experience life in the city, and their feedback would be instrumental in refining the design and functionality of the city's infrastructure. Many of the newcomers had been drawn to New Horizons by the promise of a new kind of life, one that was not just focused on material wealth but on making a meaningful impact. For some, it was an opportunity to escape the crowded, polluted cities of the past. For others, it was a chance to live in a place that aligned with their values, where technology and nature could coexist in harmony. Among the first residents was Sarah Lawson, a software engineer who had worked at a major tech company in San Francisco before deciding to relocate to New Horizons. "I've always wanted to work on something that really mattered," Sarah said as she moved into her new apartment, which featured a panoramic view of the city's skyline. "This is a place where we're not just talking about changing the world. we're doing it. Sarah had come to New Horizons with a mission. She was part of a team that was working on developing an AI-driven system that could optimize the city's energy use. The goal is to make the city not just self-sustaining, but actually regenerative, she explained. We want to create a system that's constantly learning and improving, so that we're always finding new ways to reduce waste and maximize efficiency. As Sarah settled into her new life, she realized that New Horizons was more than just a city. It was a community. The residents were all working toward the same goal, and the sense of camaraderie was unlike anything she had experienced in her previous life in Silicon Valley. It wasn't just about the work. It was about the collective mission of building a better future. One of the most important developments in New Horizons was its energy grid. Unlike traditional cities, which rely on centralized power plants, New Horizons would feature a decentralized energy system based entirely on renewable sources. The city would be powered by solar, wind, and geothermal energy, with each building generating its own power and feeding excess energy into the grid. Musk's vision for the city was not just to create a sustainable environment for its residents, but to develop a model that could be replicated in cities around the world. This isn't just for us, Musk said during the unveiling of the city's energy grid. We're creating a blueprint for the future of urban living. The goal is to show that a sustainable, self-sufficient city is not only possible, it's essential. The energy grid was powered by Tesla's latest solar technology, with vast arrays of solar panels covering the rooftops of every building. These panels were connected to a network of storage batteries that allowed the city to store excess energy generated during the day and use it at night. Wind turbines, strategically placed on the outskirts of the city, provided additional power, and geothermal energy tapped into the heat from beneath the Earth's surface to generate electricity. But the most exciting feature of the energy system was the integration of artificial intelligence. The city's AI, known as Athena, was designed to constantly monitor energy usage and optimize the flow of power throughout the city. Athena could predict when energy demand would peak and automatically adjust the system to ensure that there was always enough power to go around. It could also detect inefficiencies in the grid and recommend improvements, ensuring that New Horizons remained as energy efficient as possible. Energy is the foundation of everything, Musk said during the grand unveiling. If we can get energy right, everything else will fall into place. The city's energy system is a model for the future. While New Horizons was built with technology and innovation at its core, it was also designed to be a place where the human spirit could thrive. Musk and his team understood that a truly great city wasn't just about the infrastructure. It was about the people who lived there and how they interacted with one another. Education was a cornerstone of the city's social fabric. The New Horizons Academy, a state-of-the-art school designed by the city's urban planners, opened its doors in 2026. The school was unlike any other. Instead of traditional classrooms, students learned in open, collaborative spaces where they could work on real-world projects alongside experts from various fields. The goal was to foster critical thinking, creativity, and problem-solving skills, preparing students to tackle the complex challenges of the future. Healthcare was another area where New Horizons aimed to set a new standard. The city's healthcare system was based on the principles of preventative care and wellness. Rather than simply reacting to illness, the city's medical system focused on helping residents maintain optimal health through regular checkups, fitness programs, and access to cutting-edge medical technology. Telemedicine, AI-driven diagnostics, and personalized treatment plans became the norm, allowing residents to receive high-quality care without the need for long waits or overcrowded hospitals. But perhaps the most striking feature of New Horizons was its commitment to community building. The city's designers had placed a strong emphasis on public spaces, parks, recreational areas, and cultural centers that encouraged social interaction and fostered a sense of belonging. Residents were encouraged to get involved in community projects, from designing green spaces to organizing cultural events. The city's ethos was one of collaboration, with every resident playing a role in shaping the future. As the first residents settled into their new homes and the city continued to grow, it became clear that New Horizons was more than just a physical place. It was a symbol of hope for the future. It was a city built on the belief that humanity's greatest challenges could be solved through innovation, collaboration, and a shared vision for a better world. For many of the residents, Moving to New Horizons wasn't just about finding a new home. It was about becoming part of something bigger than themselves. They were not just building a city, they were building a movement. This is a place where dreams come true, Sarah Lawson reflected as she looked out over the city at sunset. And the best part is, we're just getting started. By late 2026, New Horizons had evolved beyond its foundational stage. The city was buzzing with activity. Excited chatter filled the streets as new residents arrived daily, and every corner of the city seemed to hold the promise of something revolutionary. Yet, despite the forward momentum, a lingering question began to surface. Could this dream of a sustainable, innovative city scale beyond a few thousand residents? Could New Horizons be replicated on a global scale and genuinely ignite the worldwide shift Musk envisioned? Or was it merely a utopian ideal, limited by the constraints of human nature, politics, and bureaucracy? Elon Musk knew this question loomed. While the promise of New Horizons was compelling, and the city was beginning to operate as envisioned, there were still growing pains. Critics, both from within and outside the city, began to question the feasibility of scaling this model to other regions, especially given the vast financial, environmental, and political challenges that lay ahead. While many residents saw New Horizons as a model for the future, there were plenty of critics, especially outside the city's walls. Skeptics from traditional industries, oil, gas, and manufacturing, looked at the project as an experiment that could never become more than a niche success. Some analysts in the media questioned whether Musk's vision of space-age cities could truly solve the world's most pressing issues, like climate change, poverty, and inequality. Even within the ranks of New Horizons, tensions began to rise as the city's growing population created logistical challenges. Some residents had moved there with the hope of living in a near-perfect society, but the reality of day-to-day life in the early stages of development was more complicated. There were rumors of delays with construction, frustrations over the autonomous vehicle network, and growing concerns about the long-term viability of the city's energy grid, which, while cutting-edge, still had a few kinks to work out. Some buildings were not functioning as efficiently as promised, and the AI systems that were supposed to optimize energy use weren't yet fully operational across the entire city. Still, for every voice of skepticism, there was an equal, and often louder, chorus of optimism. Many residents were passionate about the potential of New Horizons, not just as a city, but as a living laboratory for global change. To them, the glitches were a natural part of the innovation process, and every challenge was an opportunity to improve and refine. Zoe Adams, the young entrepreneur behind the carbon-neutral energy system, stood firmly in the camp of the optimistic. "We're building the future," Zoe said during a public interview. "Sure, there are challenges, but that's what innovation is. You don't change the world by sitting back and waiting for things to be perfect. You build, you test, and you learn. Every mistake is a lesson." Despite the criticisms, Musk remained unshaken. For him, the challenges of scaling New Horizons were just another problem to solve. And true to form, he was already brainstorming the next big step, turning the city into a model that could be replicated around the world. Musk's ambitious vision for New Horizons wasn't limited to just Texas. He was thinking globally, contemplating how the principles that govern the city could be applied to entire countries. In a series of public talks and interviews, Musk began to hint at the possibility of using New Horizons as a model for urban development in emerging economies. His plan was bold. If New Horizons could thrive in the heart of the American Southwest, it could work anywhere. "We have a blueprint for the future," Musk said during an interview at a global tech summit. "Imagine if every major city in the world was powered entirely by renewable energy, where autonomous transportation and AI ran the streets, where healthcare and education systems were optimized by technology to work for everyone. Imagine if we built not just a city, but a global network of cities focused on solving humanity's greatest challenges. That's the future we're working toward." Musk was not just talking about technological change. He was speaking to a larger social and cultural transformation. For him, the innovation at the heart of New Horizons wasn't just about efficiency or progress. It was about creating new ways for people to live together in harmony with the planet and with each other. He began to suggest that, perhaps, the model of New Horizons could become the foundation for a new global economy, one that was sustainable, interconnected, and focused on the greater good of humanity. But such an ambitious plan would require not only new technology but a radical shift in how societies viewed growth, equity, and opportunity. The world would need to rethink the idea of progress, not just in terms of economic growth, but in terms of social and environmental well-being. As 2027 dawned, the city of New Horizons was presented with its first real test, a catastrophic environmental event that forced the residents to put their ideals into practice in the most immediate and urgent way. A severe drought gripped much of the southwestern United States, affecting nearby regions in Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. The water table in the area had been steadily dropping for years, but the drought worsened significantly in the spring of 2027, creating an acute crisis. For New Horizons, which had been designed with a water-efficient infrastructure, the crisis was a test of its sustainability model. The water scarcity threatened to put a strain on the city's agricultural systems, which were designed to be self-sustaining and powered by solar energy. If the drought lasted too long, the city's innovative farming systems, which relied on recycled water, might not be enough to feed the growing population. It was also a test of the city's water recycling and desalination systems, which had been designed to handle such contingencies. Musk and his team, always quick to pivot, responded to the situation with an urgency that had become characteristic of their approach. The Living Lab was put into full gear as teams of engineers and scientists worked around the clock to optimize the water systems, increase water storage capacity, and implement advanced desalination technologies. What we're facing now is exactly the kind of challenge we were built to solve, Musk said in a televised address to residents. If we can prove that New Horizons can not only survive but thrive in the face of this crisis, then we can prove that this model can work on a global scale. In the weeks that followed, engineers in New Horizons unveiled an updated version of the city's water management system. A combination of rainwater harvesting, wastewater recycling, and new desalination techniques would allow the city to meet its needs even in the face of extreme drought conditions. Musk personally oversaw the installation of large-scale water collection systems, which were designed to pull moisture directly from the air in a process similar to that of a dehumidifier. The crisis ultimately passed, but not without a significant toll on neighboring areas. For the residents of New Horizons, the drought had underscored the fragile balance between humanity and the environment, as well as the importance of creating systems that could adapt to unpredictable challenges. In the wake of the crisis, the residents of New Horizons rallied around a shared sense of purpose. The city had weathered its first real test, and while there were still many obstacles to overcome, the outcome reaffirmed the belief that the city's vision was achievable. New Horizons was not just a place to live. It was a place that demonstrated what was possible when innovation, resilience, and collaboration came together. As Zoe Adams reflected on the experience, she realized just how much had been accomplished in such a short time. "We built this city to be more than just a testbed for technology," she said. "It's a testament to what happens when you take risks, when you dare to dream big, and when you work together to solve the world's problems." For the first time, there was a sense that the dream Musk had sold to the world was within reach. New Horizons was no longer just a place in the desert. It was a model, a beacon for what humanity could achieve if it embraced the future with open arms. The tipping point had arrived, and it was clear that New Horizons was not just a city. It was the spark of a global movement, igniting a new way of thinking, living, and growing. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? By early 2028, New Horizons was no longer just a prototype for a sustainable city. It had become a thriving example of what was possible when technology, innovation, and collaboration were brought together with purpose. The city's infrastructure was operating smoothly, its energy systems were functioning at near optimal efficiency, and the residents were living in a new kind of economy, one that prioritized sustainability, equity, and long-term growth. Yet, as with all great innovations, New Horizons faced a new challenge: how to create an economy that could sustain the city's growth while maintaining the principles of environmental responsibility and social equity. How could this new city remain economically viable in a world still dominated by traditional industries? How could it continue to grow without sacrificing its core values? Musk and his team had anticipated these questions. The solution, they believed, lay in creating a new kind of economy, one based on the principles of a circular economy, where waste was minimized, resources were used efficiently, and the entire system worked in harmony with nature. The core idea behind New Horizons economy was based on the principles of the circular economy, a system where resources were constantly recycled, reused, and repurposed, rather than being discarded and replaced. In traditional economies, growth often came at the cost of environmental degradation. But in New Horizons, the goal was to create a closed-loop system that minimized waste and reduced the need for raw materials. At the heart of this new economic model was the city's advanced recycling infrastructure. The city's AI system, Athena, monitored every aspect of resource consumption, from water to materials to energy, ensuring that nothing went to waste. Every building, every factory, every system was designed to be as self-sustaining as possible. Waste from one process was used as raw material for another, and nothing was allowed to leave the system unless it was absolutely necessary. For example, the city's waste management system was designed to recycle almost all of its waste. Organic waste was composted and used to fertilize the urban farms that grew food for the residents. E-waste was broken down and repurposed for new technologies. Even construction materials, such as concrete and steel, were recycled and reused in new buildings and infrastructure projects. Musk was particularly passionate about the role of AI in this new economic model. "We've designed an economy where nothing is wasted," he explained in a keynote speech at the annual New Horizons Innovation Summit. "Athena helps us optimize every resource, ensuring that we're always operating at peak efficiency. That's the future of growth, not more consumption, but smarter, more sustainable use of what we have." The circular economy was not only environmentally sustainable, it was economically transformative. By recycling and repurposing resources, New Horizons was able to reduce its dependence on external suppliers and create a more resilient, self-sustaining economy. This new model of growth was about efficiency, not exploitation, and it was beginning to attract attention from around the world. In traditional economies, work was often defined by wages and output, how much money someone could make by trading their time and labor for a paycheck. But in New Horizons, work was about more than just earning a living. It was about contributing to something bigger than oneself, about being part of a movement that was reshaping the future. This shift in mindset had profound implications for the city's workforce. Instead of focusing solely on traditional jobs, New Horizons placed a premium on purpose-driven work, jobs that contributed directly to the city's sustainability goals, its technological advancements, and its growth as a thriving, equitable society. The rise of purpose-driven jobs was a direct result of the city's emphasis on innovation and collaboration. The work environment was designed to encourage cross-disciplinary teamwork, where people from different backgrounds and expertise could come together to solve complex problems. Engineers worked alongside environmental scientists, urban planners partnered with social workers, and designers collaborated with educators. In this new economy, the job description wasn't just a list of skills, it was a mission. One such mission-driven team was the Urban Farming Collective, a group of residents dedicated to producing food for the city while reducing its environmental footprint. The collective used cutting-edge agricultural techniques, like vertical farming and aquaponics, to grow food in urban spaces. This not only ensured that the city had a local, sustainable food supply, but also created hundreds of new jobs in agriculture, technology, and community organizing. "We're not just growing food," said James Carter, the leader of the Urban Farming Collective. "We're building a model for food security that can be replicated around the world. And every person who works with us is a part of that mission." Another key sector was the renewable energy industry. New Horizons' energy grid was powered entirely by solar, wind, and geothermal energy, and the city's residents worked to make it even more efficient. New technologies were constantly being developed to improve energy storage, reduce waste, and maximize the use of renewable resources. This created jobs in research, development, and implementation, as well as in the maintenance of the city's energy systems. And then there were the innovators, the entrepreneurs who moved to New Horizons with the goal of disrupting industries and changing the world. They were attracted by the city's ethos of experimentation and its commitment to fostering new ideas. Some worked on advancements in AI and robotics, while others focused on creating new materials or developing next-generation transportation systems. New Horizons isn't just a place to live, it's a place to create, said Sarah Lawson, a software engineer and entrepreneur who had been involved in the development of New Horizons AI system. It's where you can take your ideas, your dreams, and turn them into something that actually makes a difference. While New Horizons embraced the idea of purpose-driven work, it also recognized the changing nature of employment in the 21st century. Traditional 9-to-5 jobs were becoming less common, and many people were seeking more flexibility in their work lives. In response, the city implemented a model that combined traditional employment with elements of the gig economy. In New Horizons, residents had the freedom to choose how they wanted to work, whether they were pursuing a full-time job, running their own business, or participating in the gig economy. The key was that all work in New Horizons contributed to the city's sustainability goals, whether it was designing new solar panels, driving autonomous vehicles, or creating art that inspired others to think about the future. The city provided a platform, called Horizon Work, where residents could find projects and opportunities that aligned with their skills and passions. The platform was powered by AI, which matched workers with tasks based on their abilities, interests, and availability. This allowed for a more dynamic, flexible workforce that could quickly adapt to the city's evolving needs. "We don't just hire for jobs here, we hire for passion," said Claire Robertson, the head of New Horizons' Workforce Development Program. "People want to do work that matters. They want to know that their time and talents are making a real difference." As New Horizons continued to grow, its economic model began to attract attention from other cities and countries around the world. Leaders and policymakers from countries struggling with environmental challenges and economic inequality visited the city to learn how they could implement similar strategies in their own communities. Musk's vision for scaling New Horizons went beyond building another city. It was about creating a global shift in how economies operated. His message was clear. If New Horizons could succeed, so could other places. The key was to adopt a mindset of innovation, sustainability, and collaboration. In 2028, Musk began hosting international summits, bringing together leaders from government, business, and technology to discuss how New Horizons could be the blueprint for a global economic transformation. The focus was on creating a new kind of growth, one that was not dependent on fossil fuels, exploitation of natural resources, or inequality, but on collaboration, sustainability, and shared prosperity. "It's about building a world where everyone has a chance to thrive," Musk said at one of these summits. New Horizons is proof that we don't have to sacrifice the planet or people for progress. We can build a future that works for everyone. As New Horizons continued to grow, it was clear that the city was not just changing the way people lived, it was changing the way people thought about the world. It had become a beacon for the future, a model of what was possible when humanity chose innovation over stagnation and collaboration over competition. The city's new economy was a testament to the power of human ingenuity and determination. It showed that, with the right mindset and the right tools, we could build a world that was not just sustainable, but equitable and prosperous for all. For the residents of New Horizons, it was more than just a new way of life. It was the beginning of a new era. And as the city expanded and evolved, one thing was clear. The future was no longer something to fear. It was something to embrace and something to build together. By mid-2028, New Horizons was no longer just a city. It had become a symbol of the future. People from all over the world, from every walk of life, were moving to the city to be a part of something revolutionary. New Horizons wasn't just a place for groundbreaking technology or sustainable living. It was a cultural movement, one that was reshaping the very way people thought about community, progress, and their place in the world. At the heart of this cultural revolution was the idea that innovation wasn't just about technology. It was about changing the way society functioned, from the way people worked to the way they connected with one another. Musk's vision of a thriving city was never just about a clean, efficient space. It was about fostering a mindset that embraced creativity, inclusion, and collaboration. The city's leaders, engineers, scientists, educators, and even artists had created an environment where culture and innovation didn't just coexist, they flourished together. It was a place where creativity was valued as much as technical skill, and where every resident was encouraged to contribute to the greater good of society. It was a place where people didn't just live, they thrived, not just intellectually, but emotionally and socially as well. In New Horizons, traditional definitions of success and competition were being challenged at every turn. The city's ethos rejected the idea that progress was only measured by individual achievement. Instead, success was defined by the collective good, by how much people could accomplish when they worked together, side by side, with a shared vision. This redefined sense of community wasn't just a philosophy, it was ingrained in the city's very design. Neighborhoods were built with open spaces and shared facilities, designed to foster interaction and collaboration. Parks, community centers, and co-working hubs were integrated into the urban landscape, allowing residents to come together and brainstorm, create, and solve problems collectively. New Horizons also embraced the idea of radical transparency. Every resident had access to real-time data about the city's operations, from energy consumption to social projects, allowing everyone to be a part of the decision-making process. The AI systems, like Athena, were open source, meaning anyone could contribute to improving the city's infrastructure and functionality. This transparency created a sense of ownership and empowerment, where people didn't just live in the city, they helped shape its evolution. Zoe Adams, one of the city's original architects and a key figure in its development, often reflected on the significance of this collaborative culture. When we first started this project, the world was so divided. Socially, politically, economically, Zoe said in an interview. But here, we built something different. It's not about individual success anymore. It's about creating something together, something that will outlast us all. One of the most striking features of New Horizons was its dedication to integrating art and culture into the city's DNA. Musk, always one to recognize the importance of human expression, had made sure that New Horizons wasn't just a playground for engineers and technologists, but a place where artists, musicians, and creators of all kinds were welcomed. Public art installations dotted the streets, blending seamlessly with the city's high-tech infrastructure. Interactive sculptures, augmented reality murals, and digital art displays were a constant reminder that the future wasn't just about functionality. It was about the beauty and creativity that would define it. Music festivals, art exhibitions, and community theater performances became regular events in the city's calendar, bringing together people from all walks of life to celebrate the power of creativity. New Horizons had become a hub for creatives, many of whom were inspired by the city's unique ethos of collaboration and innovation. One such creative force was Caleb Williams, a young architect and visual artist who had moved to New Horizons to combine his passion for design with his love for art. He had recently completed a stunning public installation in one of the city's central parks, an immersive light and sound experience that symbolized the convergence of technology and human emotion. "The way we think about art is changing," Caleb said during the unveiling of his installation. In New Horizons, it's not just about what looks good or what feels good. It's about what connects us as people. Art here is about building empathy, about understanding the world from someone else's perspective, and using technology to deepen that connection. The blending of technology and art in New Horizons wasn't just a cosmetic feature. It was a core part of the city's identity. The city encouraged its residents to think beyond the practical and to engage with the world in ways that were emotional and transformative. This cultural revolution was about fostering not just intellectual growth, but emotional intelligence, empathy, and a sense of shared responsibility for the world around them. As the city's population grew, so did its educational initiatives. In New Horizons, education wasn't confined to classrooms. It was a constant, lifelong process. Musk's vision of a thriving city relied on a populace that was continually learning, adapting, and growing. The city's educational system was radically different from traditional models. Students didn't just sit in classrooms. They participated in real-world projects, often alongside experts from a variety of fields. Whether it was designing sustainable infrastructure, developing new AI algorithms, or creating art installations, education in New Horizons was deeply integrated into the city's day-to-day operations. One of the most popular educational initiatives was the Horizon Learning Hub, a community-driven project that allowed people of all ages to engage with new ideas and learn new skills. The hub hosted a wide range of workshops, from coding and robotics to social entrepreneurship and emotional intelligence. What made the hub unique was its focus on interdisciplinary learning, where students were encouraged to combine different fields of knowledge to solve complex problems. It's not about memorizing facts, said Dr. Maria Hernandez, the director of the Horizon Learning Hub. It's about understanding the connections between different fields, thinking critically, and working together to create solutions. The world is becoming more complex, and we need a new kind of education to meet those challenges. The Horizon Learning Hub wasn't just for students. Residents of all ages came to learn, whether it was to upskill for a new career, explore a personal interest, or collaborate on projects with other members of the community. Education was woven into the fabric of life in New Horizons, creating a city of lifelong learners. As New Horizons gained prominence, its influence began to spread beyond the city limits. The cultural revolution that was taking place in the city was catching the attention of other communities around the world. Musicians, artists, scientists, and entrepreneurs from every corner of the globe were coming to New Horizons to collaborate, share ideas, and explore new possibilities. Musk, always looking to scale his vision, began to focus on expanding New Horizons' influence on a global scale, not just by replicating the city, but by fostering international collaborations that could drive a cultural revolution worldwide. Through international summits and partnerships with global universities, New Horizons began to serve as a platform for innovation on a global scale. Students, entrepreneurs, and artists from developing nations came to the city to learn, exchange ideas, and participate in the transformation of society. New Horizons was becoming a magnet for the brightest minds from all over the world, uniting them in the pursuit of a better future. In a speech at one such summit, Musk said, "The cultural revolution happening here is just the beginning. We need to spread this ethos across the globe. The challenges we face are too big for any one nation or city to solve on its own. But together, with creativity, innovation, and collaboration, we can change the world." As the cultural revolution continued to unfold within the city's borders, it became clear that New Horizons was more than just a place. It was a movement. It was a testament to the power of human potential, to the idea that when people come together with a shared vision, they can create something greater than the sum of its parts. For the residents of New Horizons, it was a new way of life, one where progress was defined not just by technology, but by the way people connected with each other, with the planet, and with their own potential. And as the city grew, the world outside its walls watched with anticipation. The Cultural Revolution had begun, and it was only a matter of time before it reached every corner of the globe. By the fall of 2028, New Horizons had reached a tipping point. What started as a bold experiment in sustainable living, innovation, and collaboration was now attracting global attention. Governments, corporations, and organizations from every corner of the world were paying close attention to what was happening in this small, thriving city. Elon Musk and his team had always envisioned New Horizons as a model not just for urban living, but for the world. Now, it seemed that their vision was beginning to ripple out, influencing politics and policy on an unprecedented scale. As the city's population grew, the complexities of governance began to surface. New Horizons wasn't a city in the traditional sense. It didn't operate like any other municipality. There were no traditional political parties or rigid political structures. Instead, the city operated on principles of decentralization, transparency, and collective decision-making. Local governance was powered by AI, and critical decisions were often made through democratic processes that gave residents a direct voice. The idea of a city built on these principles was radical, but the world was watching closely. Many saw it as a glimpse into the future, a model for how cities and nations could be governed in an age of global interconnectivity and technological disruption. However, this bold new approach also raised difficult questions. As New Horizons' success became more evident, the city attracted the attention of politicians from both sides of the aisle. Some viewed it as a harbinger of a new world order, one that could reshape the global balance of power. Others, however, saw it as a threat to the traditional political systems that had long governed nations. Musk, who had always been critical of government inefficiencies, found himself at the center of political debates. Some hailed him as a visionary who had created a new model for governance, one that could serve as a blueprint for the future. Others feared that his influence and the city's success could undermine established political systems, concentrating too much power in the hands of a few. In Washington, political leaders in both the U.S. and abroad began to take notice. A series of high-level meetings were organized, bringing Musk and his advisors together with heads of state, economists, and political analysts. The primary question on everyone's mind was, could New Horizons offer a new way of governing that could be applied at a national or even global scale? Elon Musk was invited to speak at the United Nations, where he presented his vision for a new kind of governance. Traditional systems are rooted in outdated structures, he told the assembly. They're slow, inefficient, and don't serve the people they're meant to protect. The future is about decentralization, transparency, and a system that responds to the needs of the people in real time. We have to rethink everything. Musk's speech was met with both admiration and skepticism. Some leaders praised his idealism and boldness, while others were quick to point out the practical challenges of applying New Horizons' model on a global scale. We can't just tear down the systems that have been in place for centuries, one European Union representative argued. There are too many factors to consider: cultural, economic, geopolitical. It's not as simple as creating a city and saying, "This is the future." But Musk remained resolute. It's not about tearing anything down. It's about building something better. And the technology and resources are already here. The question is whether we have the will to implement it. One of the most striking aspects of New Horizons was its use of AI to manage everything from traffic flow to resource distribution to governance. The city's AI system, Athena, was designed not just to optimize resources but also to facilitate decision-making in a way that was transparent, inclusive, and efficient. Athena's ability to process vast amounts of data and make decisions based on real-time information made the city's governance system radically different from any other. Local governments could quickly adapt to new challenges, whether they were environmental, economic, or social. But there were challenges. The use of AI in governance raised serious questions about power and autonomy. Who ultimately controlled the AI? Was it possible for a machine to make fair, unbiased decisions for millions of people? And, perhaps most importantly, what happened when human judgment, sometimes messy, sometimes irrational, was removed from the equation? In New Horizons, these questions were addressed with the same commitment to transparency and collaboration that defined the city's culture. Decisions made by Athena were not unilateral. They were guided by input from citizens, who could propose changes or challenge decisions through a democratic process. While the system wasn't perfect, it was highly effective. The transparency of the decision-making process, combined with the ability of residents to directly influence governance, created a sense of trust in the system. People knew that their voices were heard and that the AI was working in their best interests. Still, the AI-driven model was met with resistance from some who feared the loss of human agency. Political leaders in countries with more traditional political systems were particularly wary, concerned that the rise of AI would render governments obsolete or, at the very least, less relevant. One U.S. Senator, Alex Reynolds, became one of the loudest critics of New Horizons' AI-driven system. This is not democracy, he argued. This is a technocracy, run by machines, not people. We cannot hand over our rights to an algorithm. Musk, however, was unperturbed. The AI isn't making decisions for people. It's helping people make decisions. It's a tool, not a ruler. The people of New Horizons are still in charge. They always will be. Despite the controversy, New Horizons' model continued to gain traction. A growing number of progressive politicians and city planners began advocating for similar systems to be implemented in other parts of the world. They pointed to New Horizons as evidence that it was possible to have a fairer, more efficient, and more responsive government, one that worked for the people, not against them. As New Horizons' influence continued to grow, so did the backlash. The city's success, the political shift it was fostering, and Musk's growing global influence began to unsettle powerful political forces. Traditional political systems were entrenched in power, and the rise of a new, decentralized form of governance posed a direct challenge to their authority. In several countries, particularly those with more centralized governments, leaders began to publicly criticize Musk and the New Horizons project. They saw the city's success as a threat to their power, and their rhetoric grew increasingly harsh. They accused Musk of trying to dismantle the very foundations of democracy by promoting a system in which technology, rather than the people, held the power. One particularly vocal critic was Senator Richard Donovan, who led a campaign against Musk's influence. We cannot let one man, or one city, dictate the future of our nations, Donovan argued in a speech before the Senate. New Horizons may be an experiment, but it is not the future. We need to preserve the democratic systems that have worked for centuries. Musk, however, wasn't fazed by the political attacks. In a rare public address, he responded, "This is about the future of humanity, not politics. We have the technology to solve the problems we face, but we must be willing to embrace new ways of doing things. If that means challenging outdated systems, so be it." Despite the growing political opposition, Musk remained confident that the principles behind New Horizons, transparency, decentralization, and sustainability, would ultimately win out. The key, he believed, was to continue proving the model's success and showing that it could work on a global scale. By the end of 2028, New Horizons had catalyzed a broader conversation about the future of governance and the role of technology in shaping society. The city's model had proven that it was possible to create a more efficient, responsive, and equitable system, one that worked for the people, not the elites. But it was also clear that the journey was only beginning. While some political leaders continued to resist the model, others were beginning to see the potential for a new kind of government, one that was less about partisan politics and more about solving problems. New Horizons wasn't just a city. It was a living, breathing experiment in what governance could look like in the future. Elon Musk, as always, was thinking ahead. He knew that New Horizons was just the beginning. The real work, he believed, was in expanding the model to other cities, other countries, and, eventually, the entire world. But first, the world had to be convinced. For now, though, New Horizons was secure in its position as a beacon of hope for a new kind of society, one where politics, like everything else, was driven by innovation, collaboration, and the pursuit of a better future. By the beginning of 2029, New Horizons had become a global symbol of technological progress. What Musk had once envisioned as a testbed for groundbreaking innovation had now grown into the world's most advanced, self-sustaining city. But as impressive as the physical infrastructure and environmental sustainability were, it was the city's technological revolution that truly captivated the world's attention. New Horizons wasn't just a smart city. It was a living, breathing entity powered by artificial intelligence, cutting-edge robotics, and renewable energy sources. The city's residents were no longer just passive participants in the world around them. They were active collaborators in shaping the future. And at the heart of it all were the technologies that Musk had championed, technologies that promised to not only revolutionize how we lived, but how we thought about the world itself. One of the most significant advancements in New Horizons was the integration of autonomous systems. The city was a laboratory for testing self-driving vehicles, drones, and AI-controlled public services. The streets of New Horizons were filled with silent, autonomous vehicles that transported people efficiently from one point to another. There were no traffic jams, no accidents, and no human-driven cars. The success of the self-driving car program in New Horizons became the blueprint for cities around the world. By 2029, self-driving vehicles were already becoming commonplace in other urban centers, and the data collected from New Horizons had been instrumental in making the technology safer and more efficient. But it wasn't just transportation that was automated. The entire city operated on a network of interconnected AI systems that optimized everything from waste management to energy consumption to urban planning. Waste bins automatically sorted recyclables, public transport was constantly adjusted based on real-time demand, and energy grids were powered by solar panels and battery storage systems that anticipated needs hours in advance. "What we're seeing here in New Horizons is the future of urban living," said Robert Greene, a leading urban planner from the World Economic Forum. "This is the city of tomorrow, where technology is not just a tool for convenience, but a fundamental part of how people live and interact with each other." But Musk's ambitions didn't stop at smart infrastructure. He had long dreamed of using technology to connect people on a deeper level, to foster communication, collaboration, and shared purpose. And in New Horizons, he was finally seeing that vision come to life. One of the more controversial but undeniably fascinating aspects of New Horizons' technological revolution was the rise of neurotechnology and human augmentation. Musk had long been a proponent of merging humans with machines to overcome biological limitations. In 2029, his company Neuralink, in partnership with New Horizons, began rolling out the first mass-market neural interfaces, allowing residents to enhance their cognitive abilities, improve memory, and even communicate telepathically through a kind of digital network. Neuralink's brain-computer interface, BCI, allowed users to control devices, access information, and communicate with others simply by thinking. It was a game-changer. In New Horizons, children and adults alike were learning to use their neural interfaces to absorb knowledge faster, connect with each other across vast distances, and unlock new creative potentials. Maria Sanchez, a 32-year-old software developer, had been one of the first to get the Neuralink implant. At first, I thought it was going to be weird, but now it's second nature, she explained. I can literally think about something, and I'm connected to a network of ideas, people, and information. It's like my brain is supercharged. It's hard to describe, but I feel like I'm more myself than I ever was before. While the technology was transformative, it raised difficult ethical questions. What did it mean for human identity when our minds could be connected to machines? Who owned the data generated by these neural interfaces? Could such powerful technologies be abused? Musk and the leaders of New Horizons were careful to create regulations that protected residents' privacy and autonomy, but the possibilities were both exciting and unnerving. In one public debate, a resident named Naomi Parker raised the question that many had been thinking but few dared to voice. What happens if someone hacks into your mind? If a corporation or government gains access to your thoughts? How do we protect our brains from being controlled? The response from Musk was measured but firm. We are working on advanced encryption techniques to ensure that your thoughts are yours and yours alone. The technology we're developing is meant to empower you, not control you. It's about expanding human potential, not replacing it. Despite these assurances, the technology was still controversial. Some residents of New Horizons chose not to use the neural interfaces, preferring to keep their cognitive abilities grounded in biology. But for many, the allure of augmented intelligence was simply too powerful to ignore. At the core of New Horizons' success was Athena, the advanced AI system that powered every aspect of the city. Athena was no mere tool. It was the lifeblood of New Horizons, constantly learning, evolving, and adapting to the needs of the residents. The AI system optimized traffic flow, managed the distribution of resources, ensured public safety, and even mediated conflicts between residents. The AI's role in governance was one of its most striking features. Athena didn't just provide information, it helped guide decisions. Residents could interact with Athena through a variety of platforms, from augmented reality interfaces to simple voice commands, and receive immediate, actionable information. Whether it was deciding on the best way to allocate city resources or determining the optimal way to reduce carbon emissions, Athena's vast database of knowledge allowed for decision-making that was precise, informed, and objective. But Athena's influence wasn't just technical, it was also emotional. The AI system had been programmed with an advanced understanding of human psychology, allowing it to anticipate the needs and moods of residents. In moments of social tension or political disagreement, Athena helped mediate discussions, offering solutions that balanced competing interests and kept the peace. One evening, during a particularly heated debate over a new city policy, Athena addressed the crowd directly, offering a data-driven solution that aligned with the values of the community. The audience, initially divided, was surprised at how well the AI system articulated a path forward that everyone could agree on. The debate was resolved not with political maneuvering or emotional outbursts, but with reasoned, thoughtful dialogue, a new kind of democracy in action. As the technological revolution continued, New Horizons became the site of the world's first fully autonomous research lab. This state-of-the-art facility was designed to push the boundaries of science and technology, using AI and robotic systems to conduct research at a pace that humans alone couldn't match. The lab's goal was simple: to solve some of the world's most pressing challenges, from curing diseases to developing sustainable energy solutions. It combined the best minds in science with the most advanced technology, allowing researchers to work in tandem with AI systems that could analyze data, predict outcomes, and even generate new ideas. "We're entering a new era of scientific discovery," said Dr. Simon Lee, the head of the Autonomous Research Lab. "In this lab, AI isn't just a tool, it's a partner. It's helping us make breakthroughs that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago." The lab's first major success came in the field of medicine, where AI-assisted research led to a groundbreaking treatment for a rare genetic disorder. The new treatment, which had previously been impossible to develop using traditional methods, was a testament to the power of human-AI collaboration. As the lab's successes grew, the global scientific community began to take notice. Other research institutions around the world began to collaborate with New Horizons, using the city's AI systems and autonomous labs to accelerate their own work. The pace of technological progress in New Horizons was staggering. It was as if the city had unlocked the door to a new world, one where anything seemed possible. From autonomous systems to neural augmentation to AI-driven governance, the city was a living, breathing experiment in how technology could elevate humanity to new heights. But for Musk, the true potential of New Horizons was still ahead. He had long talked about the idea of a technological renaissance, a period of rapid innovation and creativity that would transform society as a whole. With New Horizons as the model, he believed that the world could finally reach its full potential. "We're not just solving problems here," Musk said in one of his speeches. "We're laying the foundation for the future of humanity. This is just the beginning. We're building a world that works for everyone, a world where technology is a tool for empowerment, not division. We're creating a new age of innovation, and it's going to change everything." And as the world watched, it became clear that New Horizons wasn't just a city. It was the spark of a global technological revolution, one that had the potential to reshape the very fabric of society. As 2029 progressed, New Horizons' impact spread far beyond its borders. The city, once a mere idea on Elon Musk's ambitious vision board, had blossomed into a global phenomenon. Its success had become a shining example of what the future could look like when technology, innovation, and human will collide in the pursuit of a better world. Now, it was time for the dream to expand into new cities, new countries, and eventually, across the globe. Musk's vision was no longer confined to one city. New Horizons had sparked a movement, a revolution in urban living that was hard to ignore. For the first time in decades, people were beginning to imagine a future where cities weren't just sprawling centers of chaos and congestion, but dynamic ecosystems of sustainability, innovation, and collaborative progress. By mid-2029, discussions had begun about replicating the New Horizons model in other parts of the world. Some governments were eager to get involved, believing that the technology and governance structure Musk had implemented could help address their own urban challenges. But the real momentum came from private companies, investors, and local leaders who saw the potential to reshape their own cities and economies by embracing the New Horizons way. The first New Horizons city to be built was New Horizon Europe, located near Amsterdam in the Netherlands. It wasn't long before another city began taking shape in Asia, New Horizon Asia, set to rise in Japan, bringing cutting-edge innovations to one of the world's most advanced technological economies. Both cities, much like the original New Horizons, would operate on the principles of AI-driven governance, sustainability, and a decentralized economic model that encouraged innovation and entrepreneurship. New Horizons isn't just a city, Musk said during the announcement of New Horizon Europe. It's a blueprint, a vision for the future of humanity. What we're doing here is creating the foundation for a world that works better for everyone. The replication of New Horizons was more than just a technological feat. It was a cultural shift. Each new city would need to be tailored to its environment, integrating local customs and needs with the same innovative framework that had made New Horizons such a success. It wasn't just about transplanting an idea. It was about adapting it, evolving it to work for different peoples and places. And it was working. As the news spread about these new cities rising in Europe and Asia, Musk's ambition grew. His goal was not simply to build a handful of cities. He envisioned a network of interconnected New Horizon cities that would form a global system of innovation and collaboration. A kind of supercity network where information, resources, and ideas could flow freely across borders, creating a web of technological and cultural exchange. However, as the New Horizons model spread, it wasn't all smooth sailing. Each new city presented its own set of challenges, from securing land and resources to navigating local political systems that often didn't align with the ideals Musk championed. One of the biggest hurdles was adapting the New Horizons model to different political and cultural contexts. While New Horizons had thrived in the U.S., Where the culture of innovation and entrepreneurship was deeply embedded, Europe and Asia presented more complex political environments. Governmental regulations, union concerns, and the entrenched interests of powerful local corporations all posed potential roadblocks. In Europe, for example, the development of New Horizon Europe faced fierce opposition from traditional political parties, who feared that the city's decentralized governance system would undermine the power of local governments. Similar concerns arose in Japan, where the concept of completely autonomous cities was viewed with skepticism by both the public and political leaders. New Horizons may be the future, but we can't just uproot everything that's worked for centuries, said Klaus Berger, a European Union legislator. There are deep-rooted traditions of governance, labor rights, and community that can't just be overridden by an algorithm. Musk, however, was prepared for these challenges. He had anticipated resistance from those who clung to traditional models of governance and society. Progress isn't easy, he said, but it's necessary. And just like any breakthrough, there will be growing pains. The world is changing, and we can either embrace it or get left behind. Despite these obstacles, Musk's approach of collaborating with local governments, businesses, and citizens ensured that each city's transition to a New Horizon-style system was gradual and respectful of local needs and traditions. And while the road was rocky, the results spoke for themselves. By late 2029, New Horizons had transformed from a singular city to a network of cities that spanned multiple continents. These cities were interconnected not just through trade and business, but also through shared technological infrastructure. New Horizons had created a new kind of global economy, where innovation, sustainability, and collaboration were the driving forces. One of the most exciting aspects of the New Horizon network was its ability to facilitate cross-border cooperation. These cities weren't isolated entities, they were nodes in a global system. They shared resources, technologies, and knowledge in ways that had never been possible before. This kind of collaboration allowed for the rapid solving of global challenges like climate change, resource depletion, and inequality. For example, New Horizon Europe had partnered with New Horizon Asia to develop a new energy grid that could be used to transmit renewable energy across vast distances. Using advanced solar and wind technologies, the grid could provide cheap, sustainable power to cities across Europe and Asia, alleviating energy shortages in many underserved areas. Meanwhile, New Horizon America was working with Africa-based New Horizons to develop low-cost, solar-powered desalination plants to solve water scarcity issues in parts of Africa. The interconnectedness of these cities meant that solutions to global problems were no longer limited by national borders. As the New Horizon network expanded, the possibilities for solving humanity's greatest challenges became more and more tangible. Musk, however, was not content to rest on his laurels. He had a bigger vision still, one that involved not just cities, but entire regions, countries, and eventually, the planet. This is just the beginning, Musk often said. What we're building here isn't just a few advanced cities. It's the first step toward a new kind of world, a world where technology doesn't divide us, but unites us. The creation of multiple New Horizon cities had far-reaching implications for the global economy. As the cities became hubs of innovation and sustainability, they began attracting talent, investors, and businesses from all over the world. Tech companies, environmental organizations, and creative industries flocked to these cities, hoping to be part of the next big thing. But it wasn't just the tech industry that benefited. As New Horizon cities flourished, entire sectors of the economy, education, healthcare, transportation, and energy underwent massive transformations. New industries emerged, focused on sustainable technologies and services. Thousands of new jobs were created, many of them in sectors that didn't even exist before. Meanwhile, the global markets were beginning to adapt to the New Horizons model. Companies that embraced sustainability, decentralization, and innovation saw their stock prices soar, while those that resisted change began to fall behind. It was becoming clear that New Horizons wasn't just a success story. It was a game-changer for the global economy. Investing in New Horizons was the best decision I've ever made, said Sarah Thompson, a Silicon Valley venture capitalist who had poured millions into the New Horizons network. We've seen exponential returns not just in terms of money, but in the kind of impact we're having on the world. This is the future of business. By the close of 2029, New Horizons had become more than just a model city. It was the epicenter of a global transformation. Cities, once the symbols of overcrowding, pollution, and inefficiency, had been reinvented as centers of innovation and sustainability. The old world, built on rigid, outdated systems, was beginning to crumble, replaced by a new global order, one built on technology, collaboration, and the shared belief that a better future was within reach. For Musk, the realization of his vision was bittersweet. He had always dreamed of this moment, but now that it was here, he knew the work was far from done. New Horizons had proven that change was possible, but it had also shown just how much more work was needed to solve the world's most pressing issues. "This is a journey," Musk said, addressing a global audience in a broadcast from New Horizons. "We've made incredible progress, but the future is still uncertain. The road ahead will be difficult, but together, we can make the world a better place. We have the technology, we have the will, and most importantly, we have each other." As New Horizons expanded, its reach stretched beyond city limits. The promise of a better future, powered by AI, autonomous systems, and unprecedented collaboration, was now global. But with every leap forward, there came inevitable questions. Could society truly handle such rapid innovation? Were we on the verge of a utopia, or had we unknowingly taken the first steps toward dystopia? For Elon Musk, who had tirelessly worked to shape this new world, the moral and ethical implications of his vision began to surface in ways he hadn't anticipated. Despite the immense success of New Horizons and its global expansion, there were growing concerns, both from within and outside the cities, about the societal impact of such technological change. New Horizons had begun as a model of technological perfection, where AI controlled much of the city's daily functions. Athena, the advanced AI system that governed the city, had been designed to optimize everything: traffic, energy, even interpersonal conflicts. But with its expansion into new cities, Athena's influence began to stretch beyond what Musk had ever intended. In New Horizons America, the introduction of AI-driven governance was met with skepticism. What had initially been seen as a way to streamline decision-making was now being questioned as a potential erosion of democracy. Critics argued that giving an AI system so much power raised fundamental concerns about autonomy and free will. "What happens when an algorithm makes decisions for us?" asked Susan Walker, a philosopher and professor at Stanford University. "We're trading personal agency for convenience, for efficiency. And at what cost?" Musk understood the concerns, but he was firm in his belief that AI, when properly regulated, could create a better, more equitable society. "Athena is not a dictator," he explained. "It's a tool, a partner. The decisions it helps make are based on data, not ideology. It doesn't have a political agenda. It has the people's best interest at heart." But as New Horizons' influence continued to grow, questions of control, oversight, and accountability became more pressing. Who was ultimately responsible for the decisions made by Athena? Was it the city's leaders, the residents who voted to allow AI governance, or the creators of the technology itself? In New Horizon Europe, protests broke out in several cities, with residents demanding more human involvement in decision-making processes. "We want to have a say in the future of our cities," said protester Lucas Donnelly, a resident of New Horizon, France. "We can't let an AI system decide our fates. We're not robots." For Musk, these protests were a reminder that even the most advanced technologies had to be checked by human values. As New Horizons continued to expand, the balance between technological advancement and ethical considerations became even more crucial. At the same time, the integration of neurotechnology into the daily lives of New Horizons residents had begun to raise uncomfortable questions. Neuralink, Musk's brain-computer interface, had allowed people to enhance their cognitive abilities, communicate without words, and even link minds across vast distances. The promise of a more connected, more intelligent human race was intoxicating, but the potential dangers were equally profound. In New Horizon Asia, a high-profile scandal involving a neural implant malfunction had shocked the global community. A group of students from New Horizon Tokyo, who had been using Neuralink to enhance their academic abilities, had found their memories altered after a software glitch caused their implants to misfire. The glitch resulted in a series of fabricated memories that confused the students' sense of identity. They struggled to differentiate between what had actually happened and what had been implanted in their minds. "This isn't just a technical issue," said Dr. Ayasato, a neuroscientist who had been investigating the incident. "This is a crisis of identity. Our memories define us. If they can be altered so easily, then what does that mean for who we are as individuals? And what happens when someone else controls that?" The incident led to widespread debates about the risks of brain-computer interfaces. Could we trust AI systems to govern the most intimate aspects of our lives? What would happen if people began using these technologies for manipulation, coercion, or control? Musk defended the technology, asserting that the glitch was an isolated incident, but it was clear that the stakes had become much higher. For many, the idea of implanting technology directly into the brain felt increasingly invasive, and the ethical implications of altering one's memories, thoughts, or abilities were profound. In a rare public interview, Musk acknowledged the moral dilemma. "We are treading in uncharted waters," he said. "I understand the fears, but the potential to enhance human capability, to help people overcome disabilities and limitations, is too great to ignore. We have to move forward, but we must do so responsibly." Another major issue that began to surface as New Horizons expanded was the growing divide between those who had access to these transformative technologies and those who didn't. The cities of New Horizons were built to be hubs of innovation, but that innovation was largely available only to the wealthy, the highly educated, and the tech-savvy. While some residents were embracing the new world of neuroaugmentation, autonomous vehicles, and AI-driven services, others were left behind. The cost of living in New Horizons was high, and only the wealthiest could afford the most advanced technologies. Many citizens in the surrounding regions of New Horizons found themselves excluded from the economic boom, leading to resentment and frustration. In New Horizon Europe, a group of local activists began calling attention to what they called the techno-elite divide. They argued that while the cities of New Horizons were built to provide opportunities for all, the reality was that only a select few had access to the best of what technology had to offer. "This is a two-tier society," said Elsa Cordova, a labor rights activist in New Horizons, Spain. "The rich get richer, and the poor are left behind." Technology was supposed to be the great equalizer, but it's becoming the great divider. Musk had always maintained that New Horizons would be a model for social equity, but the widening gap between the wealthy elite and the rest of the world presented a challenge to that vision. He knew that for the model to succeed globally, it needed to be inclusive, not just in theory, but in practice. "The technology we're developing is for everyone," Musk said during a press conference. "But I recognize that we need to do more to ensure that people who don't have the financial resources or education to access it can still benefit from these advancements. We need to make sure that the future we're building is one that works for everyone, not just the privileged few." As the influence of New Horizons spread, a counter-movement also began to take shape. Groups of citizens, concerned about the power of AI, the ethics of brain-computer interfaces, and the growing societal divide, began organizing protests against what they saw as an unchecked rise of technological control. In New Horizon America, a movement known as the Defenders began to gain traction. Their platform was simple: limit the influence of AI, restrict the use of neural technology, and ensure that humanity remained at the center of its own destiny. "We must not let machines control us," said their leader, Samira Green. "We have to protect our humanity." These movements, though still small, were gaining a significant following. For the first time, the narrative surrounding New Horizons was no longer about unbridled progress. Instead, it was about questioning the direction in which the world was heading and whether it was worth the cost. As the protests grew louder and the criticisms of his vision became sharper, Musk found himself in the middle of a moral reckoning. Was he pushing too hard, too fast? Had he overlooked the human consequences of his technological ambitions in his pursuit of progress? And, most importantly, was he losing sight of the very thing he had once hoped to achieve? A better world for all? Musk often retreated to his personal sanctuary in New Horizon America, a quiet, minimalist space where he could think deeply about the future. It was here, in moments of solitude, that he began to confront the implications of his own work. The technological advancements had exceeded his wildest expectations, but at what cost? I've always believed in the potential of technology to solve problems, Musk said to himself one evening, staring at the city lights below. But am I just making new problems? And who gets to decide what those problems are? It was a question that would stay with him as the world continued to watch, waiting to see whether the dream he had built could withstand the very challenges it had created. By early 2030, the world stood at a precipice. The remarkable success of New Horizons cities had revolutionized the way people lived, worked, and interacted with technology. But as the momentum grew, so did the pressure. New Horizons was on the brink of becoming the most transformative societal experiment in modern history, but whether it would soar into a new golden age or crash into a dystopian nightmare was anyone's guess. The global expansion of New Horizons had created an intricate web of interconnected cities. Each city was designed to operate on a unique balance of cutting-edge technologies, AI governance, and sustainable living, offering humanity a glimpse into what the future could look like. Yet the rapid pace at which these changes were taking place brought with it a host of risks, both technological and societal. As the foundational promise of New Horizons started to show cracks, Elon Musk found himself grappling with the unintended consequences of his vision. One of the most alarming developments came from an unexpected source: the rise of a hacker class that had begun to infiltrate the very heart of the New Horizons system. These were not ordinary hackers. They were skilled technologists, AI experts, and even former employees of New Horizons itself, who believed that the world Musk was building was dangerous. They sought to expose the flaws within the AI-driven governance and to dismantle the vast systems of control that had been embedded in these cities. The hacker class operated in secret, spreading misinformation, planting vulnerabilities in the AI systems, and orchestrating mass protests against what they saw as the tyranny of machines. They hacked into the infrastructure of New Horizons America, disrupting the power grid and causing chaos within the transportation network. The incident left millions of people stranded, and local leaders scrambled to restore order. Musk had always known that there would be resistance to his model, but the intensity of the opposition took him by surprise. These hackers, while ideologically driven, were also incredibly talented, and they posed a real threat to the delicate balance he had worked so hard to create. Why do we allow ourselves to be controlled by machines? One of the hackers, known only as Red, said in an online manifesto. We are humans, not cogs in an algorithm. New Horizons promised a better future, but what it has delivered is a future where freedom has been sacrificed for the illusion of safety. The global media picked up on the unrest, and the hacker class quickly became the face of a growing anti-tech movement. The attacks intensified, with hackers using sophisticated methods to exploit vulnerabilities in the Neuralink implants, creating chaos by tampering with people's memories and thought processes. In response, Musk deployed an army of cyber experts and engineers to combat the hacking efforts. But the hackers were always one step ahead, adapting their tactics faster than the city's security measures could handle. It became a battle of wits, with the fate of New Horizons hanging in the balance. While the hackers waged their digital war, cracks were also starting to appear within the New Horizons network itself. Cities that had once flourished under Musk's model were now beginning to experience deep divisions. The promise of a utopia, where technology and humanity would coexist harmoniously, was starting to feel like a distant dream. In New Horizon Europe, a significant rift had formed between the government and Musk's leadership team. Local officials, who had initially embraced the New Horizons model, were now openly questioning its efficacy and its potential for creating inequality. In particular, they were concerned about the increasing concentration of power in the hands of the tech elite, those who had the resources and knowledge to thrive within the New Horizons system. These cities were supposed to be for the people, said Klara Novak, a former member of the European Parliament, who had supported the New Horizons model from the beginning. But now we have a system that's rewarding the rich, the powerful, and the tech-savvy. We've created a new aristocracy, and it's built on technology, not merit. The growing resentment toward the tech oligarchs, the billionaires, venture capitalists, and tech moguls who had benefited most from New Horizons, began to fuel political unrest. Protests erupted in several New Horizons cities, with citizens demanding more representation, less corporate influence, and a return to a more equitable society. Meanwhile, in New Horizon Asia, Workers who had been involved in building the infrastructure for these cities found themselves sidelined by the technology that had replaced many of their jobs. Despite promises that New Horizons would create a more prosperous future for all, many blue-collar workers felt abandoned by the system. They had been displaced by AI, robotics, and automation, and the economic opportunities they were promised never materialized. The idealistic vision of New Horizons, the shining beacon of technological utopia, was beginning to fracture into something less certain. Musk watched helplessly as his dream, which had once seemed so unstoppable, began to unravel. He had always believed that technology would elevate humanity, but now it seemed that the very technologies he had championed were becoming the tools of division and oppression. As tensions escalated, Musk was forced to confront a difficult reality. While the AI systems that govern New Horizons were undeniably effective at managing cities, they were not infallible. Athena, the AI that had been central to New Horizons' success, began to show signs of limitations. Despite its vast knowledge and processing power, Athena's algorithms were struggling to account for the complexity of human emotions, social dynamics, and moral decision-making. Athena's core function had been to ensure efficiency and sustainability, but it had not been designed to make nuanced moral judgments. It lacked the empathy and understanding that only human beings could provide. And as the world faced crises, both technological and social, the absence of human judgment became glaringly obvious. In response to mounting pressure, Musk announced a controversial decision. He would allow a human council to help guide the AI's decisions moving forward. This council would consist of ethicists, philosophers, sociologists, and technologists, whose role would be to provide oversight and ensure that Athena's decisions aligned with human values. "We've created a system that has incredible potential," Musk said in a broadcast to the world. "But we also have to acknowledge that technology alone cannot solve every problem. The future of New Horizons must be built on collaboration, not just between machines, but between humans as well." This decision, though controversial, was widely seen as a necessary step. It signaled Musk's recognition that no matter how advanced AI became, it would always require human oversight to ensure that its influence remained beneficial rather than harmful. As Musk grappled with the growing crisis, he took a rare moment of reflection. Alone in his private office, surrounded by the walls lined with blueprints for new cities and technological innovations, he stared at a photo of the first prototype of New Horizons. It was a simple rendering, an idyllic city with green spaces, flying cars, and a sleek, modern design. He had once believed that this vision would solve the world's problems. But now, the questions were far more complex. What had he really built? A utopia for the few, or a system that could be manipulated by those in power? A technological marvel, or a gilded cage? His mind turned to the protests, the rising dissent, and the increasing calls for reform. It had become clear to him that New Horizons could no longer operate in isolation. It could not be a one-size-fits-all solution. There had to be a new approach, a more inclusive, more adaptable vision of the future, one that balanced technology with human values and ensured that no one was left behind. "I wanted to change the world," Musk thought. "But perhaps I've forgotten that it's the people who ultimately change it, not the machines." Despite the challenges, Musk remained determined to find a way forward. The tipping point had come, but it was not the end. The global experiment of New Horizons was far from over. Musk knew that it would require the collective effort of every citizen, every leader, and every innovator to steer the project back on course. As 2030 unfolded, Musk reached out to world leaders, tech companies, and activists, all of whom had once been so skeptical of his vision. Now, more than ever, collaboration was essential. "The future is not something we can simply create on our own," Musk said in a speech to the United Nations. "It is something we must build together, with humility, with responsibility, and with a commitment to the common good. New Horizons may be our dream, but it belongs to all of us." The road ahead would be difficult. There would be setbacks, difficult decisions, and moments of doubt. But Musk was resolute. The dream of a better, more sustainable future could still be realized, if humanity was willing to learn from its mistakes and take control of its destiny. And as he looked to the horizon, Musk knew that the true test of New Horizons had just begun. As the world hurtled into the final months of 2030, The crisis facing New Horizons had reached a fever pitch. The question was no longer just about technological progress. It was about the very future of society itself. Elon Musk, once hailed as the architect of a new age, now found himself standing on the precipice of the unknown, grappling with an unforeseen reality. The dream of New Horizons had morphed into a battle for control, equity, and the preservation of humanity's essence. The ideal of a utopia, where innovation and progress could overcome the greatest challenges of humankind, was faltering. And yet, as the cracks began to show, an opportunity arose, a chance to redefine what it meant to create a future not driven by machines, but by a harmonious partnership between humanity and technology. The global protests, organized by a coalition of grassroots movements, tech workers, and concerned citizens, were now on every continent. In New Horizon America, the protests had escalated into massive demonstrations, with thousands of people flooding the streets of San Francisco, New York, and even cities outside of the New Horizons network, such as Chicago and Los Angeles. There was a growing sense that the promises of a better future had failed, and the people were demanding answers. Across the ocean, New Horizon Europe was seeing an even more intense backlash. The European Union, once a strong ally of Musk's vision, now seemed divided. Several EU member states began distancing themselves from the New Horizons experiment, citing the growing inequality and the concentrated power held by the tech elites. In the wake of the protests, European officials were demanding stricter regulations on AI, questioning whether technology could ever be trusted to govern human lives. As tensions mounted, Musk convened an emergency summit with world leaders in New Horizon America. The summit was meant to address the mounting concerns and find a path forward. Invitations were sent to key political figures, including representatives from the European Union, China, India, and the United Nations. Along with them came top technologists, ethicists, and activists, those who had supported New Horizons from the beginning, as well as those who had fiercely opposed it. The venue for the summit was one of the flagship New Horizons cities in California, a sleek glass and steel marvel of sustainability and cutting-edge design. The city was quiet, eerily so, as if the architecture itself had lost its life force amid the growing unease. The streets, once teeming with the optimism of a brave new world, now felt like a battleground, lines drawn not between nations, but between ideologies. As Musk entered the summit hall, he was greeted by a sea of somber faces. The mood was far from the enthusiastic energy he had once felt when launching this vision. His eyes scanned the room. There were world leaders, journalists, social activists, corporate giants, and independent thinkers, each with their own agenda. Yet, despite the storm of criticism and doubt swirling around him, Musk stood resolute. He knew that New Horizons could still be salvaged, but it would require an entirely new approach, one that emphasized not just technological solutions, but also the moral, ethical, and human aspects of progress. As the summit began, Musk took the stage. He stood before the audience, aware of the weight of the moment. The air was thick with expectation, and every word would be scrutinized. "Ladies and gentlemen," Musk began, his voice steady but with an underlying intensity. "I know that today, we stand at a crossroads. For years, we have sought to create a new world, a world where technology serves humanity, not the other way around. But as we've seen, the road to progress is never without its bumps. We've created incredible things, but we've also made mistakes. And now, we are faced with a choice. Do we double down on our vision and risk losing ourselves in the process? Or do we adjust, learn, and build a future that includes not just technology, but humanity itself?" He paused, allowing the weight of his words to sink in. For the past decade, New Horizons has been the embodiment of innovation, efficiency, and possibility. But it's also become a symbol of inequality, loss of autonomy, and a dangerous over-reliance on AI. That is a reality we must confront head-on. We must face the fact that no technology, no matter how advanced, can replace the need for human connection, judgment, and moral responsibility. The room was silent. Musk's words struck a chord, and yet, there was still skepticism in the air. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was clear that the time for sweeping technological solutions was over. The world needed something different. I'm proposing a new framework for New Horizons, one that embraces the power of technology, but never at the expense of human agency. A framework that integrates human oversight, ethical standards, and equal access to innovation. A framework that brings together technologists, ethicists, economists, and citizens to guide the future of our cities. Musk's proposal was radical, but it was also the only way forward. It called for the creation of an international council of diverse leaders who would oversee the direction of New Horizons. This council would be composed not only of technologists and policymakers, but also philosophers, community organizers, and social leaders. The aim was to balance progress with equity, innovation with inclusivity. Additionally, Musk proposed a new set of ethical guidelines for AI and neurotechnology. These guidelines would ensure that AI systems, like Athena, would operate transparently and with accountability to the people they served. Neuralink's brain-computer interfaces, too, would be subject to strict ethical standards to prevent misuse, manipulation, or control. We need a new social contract, one where technology is in service to humanity, not the other way around, Musk concluded. This is not just about building cities or sending rockets to Mars. This is about creating a world where everyone has a voice, where progress doesn't come at the expense of our most fundamental rights, and where the future belongs to all of us. The room erupted into a mixture of applause and protest. Some saw Musk's proposal as a turning point, a new direction for New Horizons that could restore its original promise. Others were less convinced, arguing that his vision was too little, too late. "I'm not sure we can simply undo the damage that's been done," said Clara Novak, one of the European leaders who had initially supported New Horizons but had since become a vocal critic. "How can we trust that this framework will work? How do we know that it won't just be another way for the tech elite to consolidate their power?" Musk met her gaze, unwavering. "I know this will be difficult. It will require all of us to let go of our preconceived notions and work together. Tech companies, governments, and citizens alike. But if we want a future that works for everyone, we have no choice but to rethink everything." While the discussions at the summit were far from conclusive, a sense of cautious optimism began to spread. The proposal for a new framework was not just a last-ditch effort to save New Horizons. It was an acknowledgement that the future of technology could not be shaped by a single vision, no matter how brilliant. It required collaboration, dialogue, and a commitment to human values. In the days following the summit, world leaders began to take action. The framework Musk had proposed sparked a series of reforms. New regulations were introduced for AI governance, ensuring that autonomous systems operated under strict human oversight. Efforts were made to increase transparency in the use of AI and neurotechnology, ensuring that no one was left behind or exploited by the systems they had come to depend on. But even more significant was the global shift in the conversation about technology. Musk's speech at the summit had sparked a wave of reflection. Citizens everywhere began asking deeper questions about the role of technology in their lives and whether progress was truly making their world better. As New Horizons began to recalibrate, the world watched. Could Musk's new framework succeed? Could a balance between technological advancement and ethical responsibility be achieved? The answers were unclear, but one thing was certain. The dream of New Horizons was not dead. It had simply entered a new, more complex phase. And as 2031 dawned, humanity stood on the brink of a new chapter, one that would require not just technological ingenuity, but a renewed commitment to the human spirit. The first signs of a shift were subtle. In the days following the global summit, a curious optimism began to permeate New Horizons. People, once skeptical, started to talk about Musk's new framework with tentative hope. The proposals for greater human oversight of AI, the integration of ethics into technology, and the inclusion of more diverse voices in decision-making were bold, but they were also exactly what the world needed. However, the real challenge lay in one thing: trust. For all the innovation, progress, and ambition of New Horizons, a lingering doubt remained. Could the world, after so many years of technological promises and failures, really trust the system again? Elon Musk, for all his brilliance, knew that his biggest hurdle was not the technology itself. It was the people. His critics had long accused him of being a visionary with little regard for the consequences of his creations. The rapid rise of New Horizons, followed by the growing unrest, only deepened that divide. Skeptics questioned whether Musk could truly change course after so many years of unchallenged power. The hacker class, still active in the shadows, continued to release damaging exposés, fueling fear and distrust. For the first time, Musk questioned his own beliefs. Was he too focused on the possibilities of technology? Had he overlooked the deeper human elements, the empathy, the morality, the accountability that truly made societies work? The global summit had been a step in the right direction, but the road to rebuilding trust was long, and the damage done was not something that could be easily undone. Musk's response to the crisis of trust was clear: transparency. It was time to put the future of New Horizons into the hands of the people. No longer would decisions about the future of the world's most advanced cities be made behind closed doors, behind the veil of corporate secrecy and technological elitism. Instead, Musk opened the doors to the very people who had once been most skeptical of his ideas, the communities that had been left behind by the technological revolution. In a televised address to the global community, Musk outlined a new initiative: the People's Oversight Committees. These committees would be made up of everyday citizens, selected randomly from across the globe, who would be empowered to oversee the policies and practices of New Horizon cities. These committees would be responsible for monitoring the AI governance systems, ensuring that they were operating with integrity and accountability. Musk also pledged that the algorithms behind Athena, New Horizons AI, would be made open source, a move that would allow anyone to examine, critique, and contribute to its development. The idea was simple. If New Horizons was to be a system that served humanity, then humanity had to have a say in how it worked. "I believe in the power of transparency," Musk said, his voice resolute. "For too long, we've allowed a select few to control the future of our cities. It's time for everyone to have a voice in shaping what comes next." At first, the response was mixed. Some hailed Musk's transparency initiative as a revolutionary step toward inclusivity and accountability. Activists, once hostile to Musk and his vision, began to soften their stance. They saw this as a chance to reclaim control over the systems that had so often been used against them. "I never thought I'd say this, but maybe Musk is actually listening," said Emily Shaw, a leader in the anti-tech movement, as she addressed a crowd at a protest in London. "We've been demanding accountability for years, and now it seems he's finally taking us seriously. But it's not enough to just talk. We need action, real change, and we need it now." Others, however, were skeptical. Critics argued that the move was little more than a public relations stunt, another attempt to regain the trust he had lost through years of unchecked power. In New Horizon Europe, for example, former supporters of Musk's vision took to social media to warn that giving ordinary citizens a voice in governance could lead to chaos, social unrest, or worse, corruption. "There's a reason why AI and technology should be left in the hands of experts," said Johan Richter, a former advisor to the European Union on AI ethics. "People are not equipped to understand the complexities of AI systems. We can't allow this experiment to devolve into a popularity contest. Technology requires precision, not opinion." Despite the division in public opinion, Musk remained undeterred. He knew that there would be no easy fix, and that this journey was only beginning. The reality was that the global experiment was far from perfect, and the challenges ahead would test both the technology and the people who depended on it. Meanwhile, a new movement was slowly but surely gaining traction. It was led by a network of thinkers, technologists, and humanists who believed that the future of New Horizons was not just about technological advancement, but about building a more compassionate, fair, and connected world. They dubbed it the Human Tech Alliance. The Human Tech Alliance proposed a model where technology was not a tool to dominate, but a means to empower. It was a vision that sought to reconcile the tension between human values and technological progress. The alliance called for a global collaboration where nations, companies, and individuals could work together to create cities and societies that worked for everyone. Not just the elite, not just the tech industry, but for all of humanity. "We've been too focused on the dream of an ideal society," said Dr. Sophia Gupta, a key leader in the Human Tech Alliance and a former New Horizons technologist. "What we need to do now is focus on the reality. A world that's more equitable, more sustainable, and more human. The question is no longer whether we can innovate. It's whether we can innovate responsibly." Across New Horizons cities, grassroots organizations began forming. These were not your typical top-down tech conferences, but local movements focused on issues like the digital divide, the preservation of privacy, and the ethical use of AI. These groups, made up of everyday citizens, worked hand-in-hand with local governments, sharing their concerns, making proposals, and holding tech giants accountable. In New Horizon Asia, a series of community-led initiatives were launched to train workers displaced by automation, ensuring that they could be integrated into new, sustainable industries. In New Horizon Africa, a similar effort was underway to provide education and resources to communities that had been left out of the technological revolution. The most powerful message was clear. The future of New Horizons wasn't going to be shaped by a single person or corporation. It was going to be shaped by all of us, together. Behind the scenes, Elon Musk wrestled with the implications of the new direction he was leading. The tension between his vision of technological progress and the human-centric demands of the public weighed heavily on him. For years, he had pushed the boundaries of innovation, always seeking to go further, to break through new frontiers. Yet now, he was forced to slow down. He had to accept that the speed of progress must be tempered by empathy, by patience, and by an understanding that not everyone shared the same vision of the future. Musk had always been a man of action, but now, he was learning to listen. And as the world began to open up around him, he realized that this new phase of New Horizons, this new partnership between people and technology, was perhaps the most important and profound journey of his life. The dream of New Horizons was far from dead. In fact, it was just beginning. The final months of 2031 would be a turning point for New Horizons. With transparency, ethical governance, and human-centered innovation at the forefront, the global community slowly but surely began to rebuild trust. The commitment to ethical AI, the decentralization of decision-making, and the inclusion of marginalized voices began to foster a new sense of unity. But Musk knew that the road ahead would still be filled with obstacles. There would be resistance from powerful forces, both within and outside the New Horizons network. The challenges of rebuilding trust, overcoming the fears of technological domination, and fostering a truly inclusive society would take time. Yet, for the first time in a long while, Musk felt hopeful. New Horizons, he believed, could still fulfill its promise. But this time, it would be a promise built not just on the foundations of technology, but on the shared values of humanity. And that, Musk realized, was the true vision of the future. By the spring of 2032, the world had entered a new era, but it was a fragile one. New Horizons, as a concept, was no longer just a technological utopia. It had become a symbol of what could be, if only humanity could learn to balance progress with purpose. After the public unveiling of the People's Oversight Committees and the growing influence of the Human Tech Alliance, Musk and his team now faced the immense task of proving that their promises were not just empty words. While the protests had subsided in intensity, they hadn't completely disappeared. Skeptics still occupied the global stage, questioning whether the changes were enough. Many of the activists, community leaders, and tech experts who had once been Musk's most vocal critics had now become allies, but they were still watching with wary eyes. They understood that technology was powerful, but they had learned the hard way that unchecked innovation could easily become an existential threat. The world had learned its lesson. Elon Musk, however, remained unwavering in his belief that the future was still achievable, that the very people who had once seen New Horizons as a dystopian nightmare could help bring it to life in a way that was more humane, more ethical, and more just. In the cities of New Horizons, there was a palpable sense of anticipation as the new governance model began to take shape. The People's Oversight Committees were taking root in various regions, bringing together everyday citizens, technologists, ethicists, and community leaders. Each committee was tasked with overseeing different aspects of New Horizons cities, from AI governance to environmental sustainability, economic fairness, and social justice. The transparency Musk had promised was now taking effect. For the first time in history, the people were truly part of the process. Every policy, every new development, every technological upgrade was scrutinized and vetted by these newly formed councils. In some regions, committees even held public forums, allowing people to voice their concerns directly to the architects of New Horizons. The most powerful change, however, was in the way the AI Athena system functioned. Once a black box technology, Athena had now been re-engineered to operate with complete transparency. It was no longer just an assistant to the elite. It had become a partner to the citizens of New Horizons. Its algorithms were open source, accessible to anyone, anywhere. It could no longer dictate the course of society. Rather, it was accountable to it. As Musk walked through the streets of New Horizon, California, he saw the tangible signs of change. Where once there had been a sense of detachment, where the technology felt like something separate from humanity, there was now a palpable connection. People were engaged, aware, and active. They understood the stakes, and they had a stake in shaping the future. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. But for all the success of New Horizons, it was clear that Musk himself had undergone a transformation. The high-flying entrepreneur, the billionaire with his eyes always on Mars, had evolved into something different. The same drive that had once propelled him to create incredible companies and technologies had now been tempered with humility. Musk had long believed that the answers to humanity's greatest problems lay in technology, but over the last few years, he had come to understand that it was more complicated than that. Technology was a tool, but it was only a tool. The true power came from the people who used it and from the values that guided its use. At night, when the lights of the city flickered on, Musk would often find himself walking the quiet streets alone. The towering skyscrapers of New Horizon, California, symbols of progress, cast long shadows on the pavement. It was during these walks that he would reflect on how far they had come and how far they still had to go. "You've done it," one of his old colleagues, Andrea Lee, had told him during a late-night meeting at SpaceX. "You've shifted the paradigm. You've shown the world that it's possible to build something new." But Musk knew the real challenge was still ahead. He was no longer just creating technology. He was creating a new model of society, one that would require constant adaptation, collaboration, and, above all, self-reflection. He wasn't just rebuilding trust in technology. He was rebuilding trust in humanity itself. Meanwhile, the effects of Musk's reforms were rippling across the globe. In Europe, where the regulatory battles had once seemed insurmountable, governments began to look toward New Horizons as a potential blueprint. Nations that had been hesitant about fully embracing AI now began to adopt similar transparency measures. Cities across Asia and Africa were experimenting with variations of the People's Oversight Committees, tailoring them to their own cultural contexts. The world was starting to understand that the future was not going to be shaped by any one country or region, but by the collective will of humanity. New Horizons, as a global initiative, was becoming less about tech giants and more about the global citizen. And the more people engaged with the process, the more it seemed possible to chart a future where technology could truly serve everyone. In the United Nations, a new council was established to study the ethical implications of emerging technologies, using New Horizons as a case study. The UN's Global Technology Ethics Council brought together leaders from all over the world to study how technological advancements could be balanced with moral and ethical considerations. It was a direct result of Musk's push for transparency and human-centered innovation. However, not all nations were on board. In certain parts of the world, the fear of AI and advanced technologies was still deeply ingrained. Some saw the New Horizons model as a utopian fantasy, one that could never be replicated on a global scale. There were also fears about economic disparity, as regions with less access to advanced technologies continued to fall behind. But despite the resistance, the overall shift was undeniable. Yet even as the Earth-based New Horizons project showed signs of healing and transformation, another question loomed in the background. What about Mars? Musk's long-standing dream of colonizing the Red Planet was still very much alive, but now it was complicated by the growing demands for social equity and justice on Earth. At SpaceX's headquarters, Musk had gathered his top engineers and scientists to discuss the future of the Mars project. They were standing in a new meeting room, surrounded by models of the Mars colony and prototypes for the next generation of spacecraft. Musk could sense the excitement in the room, but there was something different in the air. It was no longer just about reaching for the stars. It was about ensuring that the people who made it to Mars were prepared for the challenges of building a new civilization. "We're not just launching rockets anymore," Musk said, his voice tinged with a new sense of purpose. We're building a future, a real future, one that requires responsibility, collaboration, and resilience. If we can build new horizons here on Earth, we can bring those same values to Mars." His words were no longer a vision for escape. They were a vision for survival. If humanity was to truly thrive, whether on Earth or Mars, it would need to take a more holistic, ethical approach to its future. And that, Musk realized, was the true meaning of his life's work. By the end of 2032, New Horizons had not just survived, it had begun to thrive. The cracks in the system that had once threatened to tear it apart were now filled with a new sense of purpose and unity. The world was still far from perfect, and the road ahead was long. But for the first time in a decade, there was hope that humanity might truly be on the brink of something extraordinary. And as Musk stood on the balcony of his home overlooking the city of New Horizon, California, he realized something that he had known all along. The future was not something you could build in isolation. It was something you could only build together. It was early morning when Elon Musk stood on the edge of the newly constructed observation deck in New Horizon, California, looking out over the sprawling city below. The rising sun bathed the skyline in hues of gold and crimson, casting long shadows across the carefully planned urban landscape. The air was crisp, and the gentle hum of life in the city seemed almost peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaotic, uncertain world that had preceded it. For years, Musk had been on a relentless pursuit of progress, driven by the belief that humanity's future depended on pushing the limits of technology. He had seen the future in rockets, in artificial intelligence, in colonizing Mars. But now, as he watched the city come to life below him, he realized that the future was not just about what technology could do. It was about how technology could bring people together. New Horizons had become more than a series of technological advancements. It was becoming a new way of living, a new way of being human. The transformation of New Horizons, from a fractured experiment in innovation to a thriving, inclusive society, was the culmination of years of hard work, painful lessons, and a deep commitment to change. But more than anything, it was proof that humanity could adapt, learn, and rebuild even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. Despite the progress on Earth, Musk could not shake the feeling that something was still missing. The dream of Mars, of creating a second home for humanity, had never left him. But as the years had passed, he began to see Mars through a different lens. It was no longer just about survival. It was about ensuring that humanity didn't repeat the mistakes of its past on a new planet. At the SpaceX headquarters in Houston, Musk had convened a small team of engineers, scientists, and ethicists. They were tasked with crafting a new vision for the Mars mission, one that would align with the values of inclusivity, sustainability, and ethics that had shaped New Horizons. Colonizing Mars, Musk said in a quiet voice, isn't just about escaping Earth. It's about learning from everything we've done wrong here and building something better. A society that values equality, that values the collective. If we go to Mars with the same mindset we had when we colonized this planet, we're just going to repeat the same mistakes. His team nodded in agreement. They had seen the potential for Mars to be a laboratory for social experimentation, an opportunity to build a truly ethical and sustainable society from the ground up. The vision for Mars was no longer a race for resources or political dominance. It was about creating a space where humanity could evolve, where technology could serve the greater good. In the coming years, the Mars Coalition was born. It was a global effort, bringing together people from every corner of the Earth who shared a common goal: to create a better, more sustainable society on Mars. The coalition was based on principles of fairness, transparency, and inclusivity, values that had been the cornerstone of New Horizons. It was a bold experiment in what it meant to build a future not based on scarcity, but on the potential for abundance. Back on Earth, the winds of change were still blowing strong. The success of New Horizons, along with the transformation of the global economy and the flourishing of new governance models, sparked a wave of optimism. People were beginning to believe again. The once fractured world was starting to heal, and the lessons learned from New Horizons were spreading to every corner of the globe. The United Nations had formally adopted New Horizons transparency models, encouraging countries to integrate similar frameworks of governance. Cities across the world, from Sao Paulo to Berlin to Beijing, were starting to adopt elements of the New Horizons approach, creating hybrid models of governance where citizens could directly participate in decision-making, ensuring that the future was shaped not just by the powerful, but by the people themselves. The shift was global. Governments began to invest in education systems that focused on ethical technology, sustainability, and critical thinking. Tech companies that had once operated in secret, hoarding knowledge for their own gain, now openly collaborated with governments, nonprofits, and academia. The idea that innovation could exist alongside social responsibility became the new norm. Even the most skeptical nations had started to come around. In countries where the distrust of technology had once been the loudest, people were now taking part in the technological revolution, not as passive consumers, but as active contributors. Community-driven innovation became the foundation for social change, and the world was beginning to see the power of collective, transparent decision-making. Musk had always been a visionary, a man who looked to the stars, to Mars, to the future. But now, as he reflected on the journey of New Horizons, he realized that the true value of this project had been in its ability to unite people. It had shown that, no matter how divided the world seemed, there was always common ground to be found in the shared human desire for dignity, fairness, and progress. As he sat in his office overlooking the city, he thought back to the darker days, when New Horizons had been on the brink of collapse, when the hacker class had threatened to bring it all down, when the protests seemed unrelenting. But that had been the moment of reckoning. That had been when Musk had realized that the future wasn't just about pushing forward with technology. It was about bringing people along on the journey. It was about ensuring that everyone had a stake in what came next. Progress isn't a destination, Musk had said at the final meeting of the New Horizons Council. It's a journey we make together. The lessons of New Horizons had far-reaching consequences, not just for the cities that bore its name, but for the world. In the face of adversity, humanity had found a way to rebuild. In the quest for progress, it had rediscovered its soul. As 2033 dawned, the world stood at the precipice of something extraordinary. New Horizons had shown what was possible when technology, governance, and humanity worked in harmony. The promise of a better future had never been closer, but the journey was far from over. Musk knew that the road ahead would still be filled with challenges. There would be setbacks, mistakes, and obstacles. But for the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of peace. The dream of a new world, one where innovation served humanity, where technology was a tool for good, and where society was built on the values of transparency and inclusion, was no longer a distant hope. It was becoming a reality. And as he gazed out at the horizon, the dawn of a new day in New Horizons, Musk smiled. The future was here, and it was only just beginning. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?